Good morning, baseball fans. Coming to you on a Tuesday morning this week for our Sweet Six. I guess you can call it our Sweet 16 episode for our podcast around the state at Prep Baseball Alabama podcast. Man, it's second week of the playoffs for 1A through 6A. 7A is getting cranked up after finishing their areas last week, and I've got to say just a couple things before we get started. Number one, man, I met a lot of nice people last week. We were out and about, put a lot of miles on our truck last week, but out and about at a lot of different places. We were able to get to some different places last week, which we enjoyed. And, we are still finalizing where our scouts are going to be this week. A lot of these series we're going to talk about in just a minute get started on Thursday. But most of them get started on Friday. So we'll be out and about on Thursday and Friday, and then any possible game threes on Saturday that we're able to get to. But, again, week one was I guess what you expected week one. Go ahead and say it, Austin.
A lot of because those first round matchups, some of the teams you played, probably not the type of competition you'll see probably later in the playoffs, but there were some interesting scores, and I know we were at different places both on Thursday and Friday, but we both have the Game Changer app, and each time scores finish on Game Changer, we get them on our phone, and we would text probably at about the same time, like wow, or anytime some I guess you'd call it an upset would happen. So. But that's, what the playoffs are all about. It's fun to follow, and it's fun to talk about them. And last week, we had over, I think we were at 19.7 thousand viewers on Twitter from our podcast. I know we had probably 400 on YouTube, a couple thousand on Facebook. So a lot of people tuning in. Probably won't have that same number just because it's, probably it's half of the teams now with the playoffs continuing to move on, but we enjoy talking about it, and we wouldn't be told last week we went 4.5 hours. We ain't going 4.5 hours this week because we were running out of gas when we got to 6A, but we wouldn't be spending as much time as we are talking about all those teams if people weren't tuning in and weren't enjoying it, and we've gotten tons of really good feedback from people who tune in and just appreciate the coverage that we're giving the playoffs, because we, like you, are fans as well, fans of high school baseball. We love going to high school playoffs, just those atmospheres. It's one of the favorite things about my job. I don't know if I can speak for you, but it's one of the favorite things about my job, just getting to go to some big playoff atmospheres, some of the best players, best teams, and ready for the Sweet 16 this week.
Amen. Who would have ever thought that we would have over 20,000 combined audience members watching or listening to this? I mean, who would have ever thought? That's crazy. It's absurd to think about. Yeah. Again, we really appreciate each and every one of you jumping on. Like we've said, we enjoy meeting you, talking to you at the ballpark. So please come up and speak to us. I do have to give a special shout out to the people at American Christian, man. They were really, really great hosts, great hospitality, fed me between games, man. That's always a plus. That was a really one that we knew was going to be a good series. American Christian, Orange Beach, man, two quality teams going at it. As always, please, man, tell us what you think out in that comments box as we're rolling through these predictions, and anything else you have questions about or comments about, man, we'll try to get to each of those. Again, we like the interaction with our audience. So again, don't hesitate, but let's look back real quick before we get started. Last week in 1A, I went 15-1. In 2A, I went 15-1. 3A went 14-2. 4A went 15-1. Now I came down to earth a little bit in 5A and 6A. 5A, what's that?
I think a lot of people did, looking at the bracket challenge.
Yeah. In 5A, I was 12-4, and then in 6A, I was 13-3. Now, I do have to say this. Last week when we were talking about 6A, I mentioned those heavyweight bouts in the South, and I thought the northern half of the state, those matchups weren't as intriguing. I did go 13-3 in 6A, and all three of my losses were in the South. So, that the North went pretty much like you would expect it. But my overall record last week, man, I think I have to be proud of this. My overall record last week was 84-12. So got out to a good start. We'll see how that finishes up. This week, man, I don't feel as good about my picks this week. I'll be honest with you. So what about you last week, Austin?
In 1A, I went 13-3. In 2A, I was 15-1. 3A, I went 15-1. 4A, I was 13-3. In 5A, I went 13-3, and then in 6A, I was 12-4. So I'm 81-15. You got a 3-game lead on me, but I'm used to playing from behind. So,
amen.
Get a little bit creative with my picks moving forward. We'll see.
Well, I felt like I was creative in my picks this week too. I don't know. Again, it's going to get more difficult as the rounds go on.
So you said you already made your picks. I hadn't made my picks, so I'm rolling off the cuff here.
I have made my picks, and they're highlight yellow. I don't want to give my picks away. Now, I will say there's 3 picks that I have not made yet. I'm still not sure which way to go. When it gets time, I'm going to make my picks live and on air on 3 of the picks, but those are some of the larger classifications. So let's go ahead and get started in 1A, man. In 1A, our first matchup in the South, got South Lamar. South Lamar beat McKenzie last week. They will be on the road at Elba. Elba went on the road last week and beat Central Haneyville. South Lamar finished the season right outside of our top 10 receiving votes. Like I said, Elba will be at home. South Lamar swept McKenzie last week by scores of 5-3 and 7-2, while Elba pretty much they dominated Central Haneyville last week. They won by scores of 13-4 and 15-5. So you've got 2 teams coming in after sweeps last week. This series will get started on Friday at 2:00 with the game 3 possibility on Saturday at 1. So we've set the stage, man. Austin, what you got? And who you like in this one?
I'm going to go with Elba. Last week, I picked South Lamar to beat McKenzie, and they did in 2 games. Kind of two closer games, but it was a different story for Elba. I picked Central Haneyville last week, and Elba was able to, like you said, kind of dominate them with scores 13-4 and 15-5. So I want to roll with that Elba offense. We talked about Elba. I think we mentioned it last week when we talked about Elba, how they obviously finished as the runner-up in that area, finishing behind Florala. And we both have talked about how high we are on Florala. I think they have a really good chance in 1A, and they got a big matchup this week. But Elba, I'm gonna go with Elba scoring a lot of runs early in their first round matchup. And I'm gonna go with Elba, especially at home as well. But South Lamar having a 21-9 record, 2 really good teams. We'll be interested to see how it shapes up. But I'm gonna go with Elba here to advance to the Elite 8.
I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to go with South Lamar. And this was one I toyed back and forth with, and which a lot of these picks are. And here's the reason I'm going with South Lamar. And maybe I'm just trying to find a reason why I picked them. But I did go with South Lamar because they were in 2 tight games last week. They did sweep, as we both talked about, but they won 5-3. They stretched that second game out to 7-2. But I think there's something to be said for being tested in the first round and having to earn your way to the second round. Now, you flip it back on Elba. Well, Elba says, well, we dominated. I mean, you're right, you did. But, I'm just going to go with South Lamar here. That 21-9 record, that overall body of work speaks for itself. I think this one could go either way. I'll be perfectly honest with you. It will be difficult for South Lamar to go on the road and win that. So we'll split that pick. Our next pick in the South, you've got Leroy. They come in with a record of 21-12. Last week, Leroy beat Billingsley, a quality Billingsley club. They lost game 1 6-5. They won game 2 and then just really put it on Billingsley in the last game, won 17-0, I believe. So Leroy was stretched 3 games, but again, that was a that was a 1A series we had penciled in as one to keep an eye on. Leroy was able to come across and win that. Sweetwater, man, you talk about domination. They won 15-0 and 17-0 over Lochapoka. That is domination. It is at Sweetwater this week. This one will begin on Friday at 4:00. Yeah, and again, all of these that I say, when I say Friday at 4:00, that's the doubleheader. And then Saturday would be 1:00 if a game 3 is needed. I know who I like here. Austin, what you think?
I'm gonna go with Leroy. Going on the road here, they were at home. They beat a really good Billingsley team. Billingsley was ranked. We kind of circled that matchup last week, Leroy and Billingsley, as one of the better matchups in 1A, and especially in the smaller classifications. Leroy, like you said, being able to come back after losing that first game and really put it on Billingsley in game 3, scoring a bunch of runs. Leroy has kind of been a team under the radar, I think you would say, in Class 1A. Really caught our attention later in the season when they took 2 out of 3 against Millery, who we have number 1 in Class 1A to win that area. And then you come, like I said, mentioning beating Billingsley in a first round matchup. But they're going to be on the road this week, going to Sweetwater. It will be a tough environment having to go to play the Bulldogs, who are a consistent power in 1A. But like I said, I'm going to go with Leroy here. Just think that they've played really good baseball all year long and have been trending in the right direction as of late. So give me the Bears to go on the road and get a really tightly contested three game series win.
This is one of 3 top 10 matchups in 1A. It's crazy, and let it be known that neither one of us tell each other who we're going to pick. I promise you. And we've gotten off to a different start here, because I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to go Sweetwater. That home field advantage, like you talked about, and I failed to mention, Sweetwater finished number 8 in our poll. Leroy finished number 7. So this is 7 versus 8. This is this is as big as it gets. Well, you go right on. There's another one coming up right after this, but this is a big matchup. But I'm going to go Sweetwater, and here's why I'm going Sweetwater, for 2 reasons. It is at home, and then number 2, last week you win 15-0 and 17-0. Those 2 zeros, that says a lot to me. That and without saying it all the time in this podcast, if you pitch and play defense, you can win any game you play. So 2 zeros back to back sticks out to me. So I'm going to go with Sweetwater. Our next matchup in 1A is the premier matchup. And again, no discredit to the other matchups, because we do have 3 top 10 matchups. But our next one, man, features number 3, Florala. Florala comes in at 20-1. Their only loss is to an out-of-state team from Florida. Florala, again, dominated Calhoun last week by scores of 13-0 and 12-0. Again, there's 2 zeros on the board. Florala, as I said, finished number 3. They are on the road at number 1, Millery. Millery comes in with a 26-5 record. Last week in the first round, Millery was pushed to 3 games against Maplesville. And I think I remember us saying that we both liked Millery, but Maplesville was a team to keep an eye on there in a competitive series, and that was a competitive series. In that
Maplesville, you remember us in that last week of the regular season. Maplesville swept Billingsley to win that area championship, and we were high on Billingsley, and Maplesville kind of came in as of late.
Right, that you're exactly correct. And Millery won game 1, 9-4. Maplesville turned around and won game 2. They won 6-5 to force a game 3, and then Millery was able to pull that out in a 3-game set over Maplesville. But again, this is 2 teams coming in with different roads, I guess you can say. Florala dominated. Millery was pushed to the brink. 3 games, obviously 1 versus 3. It's a titanic matchup, I guess you can say. I know who I like. Who you going with, Austin?
This is a state finals, state final series, Final Four type feel. We've been really, really high on Florala all year long, and the same with Millery. Millery's been at the top of Class 1A for pretty much the majority of the season outside of the first couple of weeks. Florala, I think, has been inside the top 5 as well. So both teams have really taken care of business throughout the regular season into area play in their first-round matchup. You look at Florala, the arms, the way that their arms set up in a 3-game series is about as good as it gets in 1A, and Millery's really deep as well. You look at Florala, Kenneth Dalton Jackson, Cody Walsh. Cody Walsh is a guy who's pitches in the upper 80s and I think has been up to 90 or 91. I think he throws game 1. I think he in his start in game 1 against Calhoun, I think he struck out like the first 9 or 10 batters that he faced. Had a really strong outing as he has had throughout the regular season. And then I think his little brother Easton Walsh is a left-handed pitcher outfielder who is another top arm for them in their rotation. So, and then you add in Kenneth Dalton Jackson, a junior 2-way player who has light tower power at the plate from the right side, can also pitch as well. He's been featured in our Diamond Notes. He was Player of the Week a couple weeks ago. And then Millery headed into the playoffs, I think, with 2 or 3 losses. They dominated the regular season. Outside of that series that we talked about against Leroy, they've been, like I mentioned, number 1 throughout most of the regular season, and had a big series win. We talked about that series last week. Maplesville was a team trending up in Class 1A, and to have to go on the road after finishing as the runner-up behind Leroy, having to go on the road to Maplesville, a really solid club, and winning that series in 3 games, and kind of a tale of 2 different teams, 2 different stories in the first round, with Millery having to go on the road and having to find a way to win the series in 3 games, where Florala was at home and pretty much dominated their first round opponent. I've had this team circled. I've had this team penciled in as a team to go and make a serious run, especially my bracket in 1A. I think I may have them as the champion, and I'm going to side with Florala. Just the way that their pitching sets up in a 3-game series. You look at the middle of that order with Walsh and Jackson, and then the younger Walsh, and then on the mound with those 3 guys as well, and they've got some other guys as well. Do the Wildcats? So I'm rolling with Florala in a huge 1A Sweet 16 series, one that we're going to be following along very closely throughout the. When did you say this gets started, on Thursday or Friday?
It's Friday. Friday.
So it'll be one that we're game tracking when we're out at games. It's going to be one to definitely follow along throughout on Friday and potentially into Saturday. But I'm going to go with the Wildcats here in a huge matchup to advance to the Elite 8.
I hate to do this because it's such a big series, but you and I are in competition against each other, and please let it be known that we don't go in and split our picks for the big games just to, each one of us take a side. So 50% of us will be right. Austin and I, we're in competition with our bracket as well. I'm going with Florala as well. And listen, man, there's no disrespect towards Millery. We've had Millery ranked number 1 all year long, just about. Neither one of us, we both picked Florala, but Millery has just as good a chance to win this series as Florala does. I mean, you mentioned it. This is a state championship caliber type matchup in round 2. And, you hate that this happens so early, but it's just the way the brackets are drawn up with the areas and, the winners and runner up. But I'm going to go Florala as well. And again.
So just to make sure we're going against the number 1 team at home.
That's right. Yeah. And you know what? And that's what I'm saying. Here we are. Thank you, Ryan, for that. Millery is one of the most hostile environments you'll ever go to for a baseball game. You will get rattled bad, man. He's making me second guess my pick right now. But again, let's be honest. Austin made a great point. We have Millery ranked number 1, and we picked against him at home. This is what you sign up for. Let's leave it at that. We could go on and on about this series, but we both sided with Florala, and one that we will definitely be keeping up with. Our last matchup in the South in 1A, you've got hold up. hold on just a second. Lost my train of thought there. Yes, our last matchup in 1A, you've got Brantley. They come in at 16-5. They finished the season ranked number 6 in our last poll. They last week they were able to beat Berry 8-0 and 15-3. They will be on the road this week. They will be traveling to University Charter. University Charter comes in with a record of 14-7. They finished. They are 14-7. Last week, University Charter dominated Wadley, and I think Austin and I both said we'd liked University Charter to win that series convincingly. University Charter won 11-1 and 17-0. Again, I think it's always important to look at the run score or the runs allowed. University Charter was dominant, and Brantley was dominant. So you've got two teams coming in off sweeps. I failed to mention this series will get started on Friday at 2:00, and the if necessary game on Saturday would be at 11 a.m. Another interesting matchup in 1A, Austin.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to go – you talk about the Brantleys and the Sweetwaters and the Millerys, the Floralas, the Appalachians, the consistent powers in Class 1A, and that's what Brantley is. Obviously, they made the state finals last year in Class 1A. Got a strong chunk of production from that team coming back. That's come back this year and produced for them. Parks, their shortstop. I think he pitches for them too as a junior. Cooper Layton is a middle of the order hitter for them. Also pitches and hits for them. And they've got more players coming back that are back from last year's team. And I'm going with Brantley, the Bulldogs, to potentially set up another huge matchup in that next round. Whoever wins this matchup, it only is going to get tougher down the road for them. But I'm gonna go with Brantley. They know how to win. They showed it last year, making that deep run throughout Class 1A to the state finals. I'm going to go with Brantley here to go on the road in a what should be a strong environment. I'm going to go with the road team. Once again, I think all 4 teams I may have picked have been on the road. But I'm going to go with Brantley to get a 3-game series win here.
I'm going to side with you there as well. I think Brantley's overall body of work this year, I think they're 18-5, has been impressive, 16-5. But then you look at University Charter, the same thing. They're at 14-7. I'm like you. I like Brantley. They're used to being deep in playoffs. University Charter is a newer school. I think they had a pretty good run last year. I like Brantley here. Simply, Brantley, again, I mentioned it earlier. They know how to win moving forward. And so we both are going to go with Brantley there. So that'll wrap us up in the southern part.
The question is there any way to play back this episode?
Yes.
You may, if you're viewing on Facebook and Twitter, I don't think you can while it's live. Once we finish at the very end, you'll be able to go back on Facebook and Twitter and scroll to whatever timestamp you want. But we're also live on YouTube, and I'm pretty sure on YouTube you're able to, even when it's live, you're able to scroll back while we're live and to go back on the episode, if that makes sense. So I would try to go to YouTube if you're trying to go back and take a look at one of these matchups while we're live.
Moving to the northern side of the bracket in 1A, you have Coosa Christian. Coosa Christian will be on the road. Coosa Christian won Area 13. They finished the season right outside of our top 10. They have a record of 15-20. They will be on the road at Addison. Addison comes in with a record of 16-13. They were the Area 11 runner-up to Summerton Christian, a team that we'll talk about here in just a minute. This series will get started at 4:30 on Thursday. So this one gets cranked up on Thursday. How did these two teams get here? Addison swept Covenant Christian. They won 10-3 and 3-0. Again, that's a sweep of Covenant Christian. Coosa Christian was pushed to 3 games by Hubbardville. They lost game 1, 2-1. They won game 2, 11-1. So, barely got beat in game 1. Really asserted themselves in the second game, won 11-0, and then won a nail biter in game 3 over Hubbardville, 5-4. So that sets up this matchup. Again, this will be at Addison again, 4:30 Austin, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I'm going to jump the gun here a little bit. I'm going to go with the home team this week. I'm going with Addison. Impressive week last week. I'm gonna go with them at home. I think this is, again, Coosa Christian's got some good arms. I think this will be an interesting series, but I'm gonna go with Addison.
I think I'm going with Addison too. But man, we've got 462 viewers, and I just got a text. My wife is watching, and she'd kill me if I didn't give her a shout out. So shout out to Ivy Sharp.
Gotcha.
At school too.
At school. Don't say that.
I'm going with Addison as well. And I got to give a shout out to, I forget what his name is, but he came in last week and our 1A expert. or 1A expert, and I was going Covenant Christian, and he said, I've seen Addison play. Addison's going to roll. And I switched my pick to Addison, and I think you stayed with Covenant Christian.
I did.
So I went Addison, and I'd be down 4 games if it weren't for him. So that's the only reason I picked Addison. I'm going to stick with Addison here again to roll. And especially last week, they went on the road to Covenant Christian, was able to, there he is, Adam McGee. I'm going.
That's awesome.
Last week they went on the road and beat Covenant Christian, who won their area. I forget who Addison finished. I think who Addison finished as the runner-up to
Summerton Christian.
Summerton Christian. Obviously, they're 18-4. So Addison is definitely a really quality team. I'm going with Addison here to advance to the Elite Eight, continue their continue a playoff run.
And that will move us to our next matchup, a really intriguing matchup. You have Coosa Christian. I'm sorry, I apologize. You have Appalachian. Appalachian comes in ranked number 2 in our last poll. They currently sit at 22-2. Last week, they beat Skyline. Addison. Appalachian beat Skyline 10-1 and 10-0. So Appalachian really asserted themselves last week in their round 1 sweep. As I mentioned, they will be on the road at Belgreen. Belgreen, don't want to say it was a surprise, but an impressive series win over who we had ranked number 10, Victory Christian. Belgreen won game 1, 4-2, lost game 2, 10-6, and then was able to defeat Victory Christian in that game 3 by a score of 7-4. This series will get started on Friday at 4:30 with the if necessary game on Saturday at 1 o'clock. Man, you've got 2 teams coming in with, I don't want to say different ends of the spectrum, but Appalachian comes in with that gaudy 22-2 record. Belgreen finished, right outside of our top 10. They currently sit at 14-12. Who are you going with here, Austin?
It's hard not to go with Appalachian, but I will give credit to Belgreen. Belgreen has we talked about it last week. They're runner-up to Hackleburg, but I think they pushed them to 3 games. They won the first game, lost the last 2 games. And I was so close to going Belgreen last week against Victory Christian. But credit to Belgreen going on the road and getting a win over a team who had only lost 4 games going into the playoffs. So they've certainly built a strong resume. But the competition continues to only get tougher here into the second round, into the Sweet 16. It's tough not to go with Appalachian. The Eagles have cemented themselves as one of the top programs over the last few years in Class 1A, obviously winning the state championship last year, continuing that success into this year with winning over 20 games and only losing 2. So I'm going to go with the Eagles here. I'm going to go with Appalachian, our number 2 team in 1A, to get a series win over Belgreen.
I'm going to go the same. I'm going with Appalachian. You mentioned it, where we have them ranked and where we had them ranked pretty much all season. Tells you how highly we think of them. I don't think this is going to be easy by any stretch of the imagination. Going to Belgreen is going to be difficult. Beating a quality team last week in Victory Christian, but I think it's just too much Appalachian this week. I like them to win. I like them to advance to the Elite Eight. Our next matchup is another one of those top 10 matchups that we have in 1A. You've got Hackleburg. They finished the season ranked number 4 in our last poll. They come in at 22-7. They will be traveling to Lynn. Lynn comes in with a record of 16-7. They finished number 9. So you've got number 4 versus number 9 here. This series will get started on Thursday at 4:30. Last week, Hackleburg handled business like we thought they would against Talladega County Central. They won by scores of 10-0 and 15-0. And Lynn also dominated a week ago. They beat Cedar Bluff. So they beat Cedar Bluff 14-0 and 14-6. And you know, I know that Lynn is a quality team, but you know that was a fairly quality team they beat in Cedar Bluff as well. You know, Hackleburg did what we thought they would do, but again, both these teams come in after dominant performances in game 1. Austin, I'm gonna go ahead and jump the gun on you if you don't mind. I'm gonna go Hackleburg here. You know, I do like Hackleburg on the road, and I said this earlier. I felt like some of my picks this week maybe a little outside the box. I feel like I'm going with too many road teams this week. Mm-hmm. I do, but I'm having to go to just, you know, I'm going with just who I think is going to win. And I'm going to go Hackleburg this week. I think their body of work is impressive. I like this one. I like them to go on the road and beat Lynn this week.
Yeah, me too. I think it's I think it's kind of strength on strength here. Hackleburg has a really good pitching staff led by Aiden Beard, a senior right-hander who's headed to Snead State. And then you look at Lynn. I saw Lynn's game 1 starter last week through a no-hitter against Cedar Bluff. So that'll be a really good matchup out of the gate, I believe. I think Aiden Beard throws game 1. So game 1 may not be many runs scored between these two teams. Two really good arms going toe-to-toe. But ultimately, I'm going to give the advantage to Hackleburg, just like you. They've been, you know, another team in 1A that's won over 20 games this season. They've been inside pretty much of our top 7 or 8 throughout the season in Class 1A. I think Hackleburg, you know, it'll be tough on the road. Once again, you know, it's tough picking these teams who we think don't want to say better, but who we've seen ranked pretty high in our top 10 in Class 1A. Obviously, who we think are, you know, some of the top upper echelon of teams in the classification, having to go on the road against a sneaky team like Lynn, who's also, I think they were inside our top 10 as well. So shows how highly we think of Lynn. But I like you. I'm going to go with Hackleburg here to advance to the next round in 1A.
And our last matchup in 1A features 2 area winners. You have Area 15 winner, Athens Bible. They will be at home this week. They come in with a record of 13-12. They finished right outside the top 10. Last week, Athens Bible defeated Jacksonville Christian in 2 games by scores of 7-2 and 12-4. This week, they are hosting Summerton Christian. Summerton Christian comes in with a record of 20-4. They finished the season ranked number 5 in our last top 10. Summerton Christian dominated Shoals Christian last week, 10-0 and 13-0. You know, about halfway through the season, we were told by someone that Summerton Christian's a team to keep an eye on in 1A due to that pitching staff. And I think they flexed their muscles last week, not giving up a run in a 1A series, in a first round series sweep. This one gets started, and I'm glad it does. This one gets started on Thursday at 1:00. And then the if necessary game would be Friday at 4. Due to that early start, and I'm headed west. I'm headed west from here in Huntsville. I'm going to be able to stop in at Athens Bible and take in the game 1 of Summerton Christian and Athens Bible. So looking forward to getting a look at both of these teams. I'm glad they're starting at 1:00 again. Man, I think it's Summerton Christian and Summerton Christian. Although we have them ranked number 5, I think it's a team that could. That they could go all the way. Yeah. Athens Bible last year, and Athens Bible notoriously has been a strong 1A program. I think it's just too much Summerton Christian this week. That pitching staff, again, did not give up a run last week. It's hard to score on them. If you can't score on somebody, you're not going to be able to beat them. I'm not saying Athens Bible's not going to score, but it's going to be tough to put up runs. Give me Summerton Christian to advance to the Elite Eight this week.
Yeah, you look at probably five or six teams in 1A who we think are the presumed favorites, and Summerton Christian is definitely one of those teams. You talk about we have them ranked 5th, but only having 4 losses and 18-4 record. They could easily be higher. It's just those teams in front of them have consistently, have run the gauntlet and throughout their regular season as well. So not much movement, but the margin between those top 5 teams, I think we would both say is pretty small. So Summerton Christian certainly is a presumed favorite to make a deep run, and got off to a good start last week, dominating Shoals Christian, scoring double-digit runs and not giving up a run on the mound. Athens Bible also swept as well, but I agree. I'm going Summerton Christian as well, led by Austin Hubbard, a left-handed pitcher outfielder who's I believe one of their better arms on the mound, can also swing it in the middle of their order. He's a guy we saw last summer, and Summerton Christian's got other pieces as well, but I'm going to go with Summerton Christian like you here to advance to the Elite Eight and potentially further on if they can continue to play good baseball as they have been over the past few weeks.
So that'll wrap us up in 1A, and we'll jump right into 2A. And you've got an interesting matchup here. And I think if you look at this on paper or just with the naked eye, this one may not appear as intriguing as it might be. Our first matchup in 2A, you have, let me go back here. You've got Pike Liberal, a team that we have talked about all year long and how impressed we've been with Pike Lib. They finished number 2 in our last top 10 ranking. They come in at 25-5. Last week, they beat JU Blackshear 5-1 and 11-0. And again, I said this last year on our podcast, man, when we got into the playoffs, I like to look at the runs allowed, man. That's just something, just something to keep an eye on. And, the Pike Lib pitching staff gave up 1 run over 2 games last week. They are on the road this week. They'll be traveling to Cottonwood. And the reason why I say that is Cottonwood, reason why I say this may be a little bit more intriguing than the naked eye may look at this matchup as. Cottonwood last week beat Ranburn. Cottonwood won 10-6 and 10-1. So, both of these teams come in with impressive first-round sweeps. This series will get started on Friday at 4:00. Again, it is at Cottonwood. The if necessary game would be Saturday at 1:00. Austin, as much as we talk about this being a little bit more interesting than some people may think, as impressive as Cottonwood was last week and, the late season surge by them, it's hard to go against Pike Lib for me, man. I have to go Pike Lib. That's a team that we've talked a lot about all year with 2A. I've had people asking in the North about how good's Pike Lib, they're really good. And it's just hard to go against them. No disrespect to Cottonwood. That home environment's going to be difficult. It may change some things, but again, a matchup that may not appear to be intriguing. I think it can be, but I've got to side with Pike.
Yeah, just really the body of work that Pike has built throughout the whole season, I think is really impressive. They've beaten some larger classification schools. You look at Cottonwood, guys like Austin Miller, there he is on the mound.
Yep.
You've also got Braylon Morris, Cleet Meadows, talented roster that can go head-to-head with Pike Liberal. But I agree. I'm going Pike Liberal as well. They've got tons. They've got a bunch back from last year's team, and they've really and it's talent that's kind of spread out throughout classifications. You think of a guy like Cole Garrett who was playing second base as an 8th grader last year, and didn't play like an 8th grader last year. He's now a freshman, has got more experience, and they've got other juniors and seniors and sophomores. So Pike Liberal is going to continue to be good for the next few years, and they've got a serious chance to make another deep run. Obviously, they've been number 1, 2, or 3 in Class 2A for the entirety of the season, and spent the majority of the season at number 1. And I I just go back, the body of work that Pike Liberal has really built throughout the entirety of the season, beating some of the top teams down in that Wiregrass area. It's too hard to ignore. You would think Pike Liberal is one of the favorites in Class 2A, and there are a lot of them, but certainly they're definitely one of the favorites, especially to come out of the South. So I'm going to go with the Patriots like you, but could definitely, those two arms we talked about, Braylon Morris and Austin Miller, two arms that they can go head to head with Pike Liberal's offense, but ultimately in the end I'm going to side with the Patriots as well to advance to the Elite Eight.
Our next matchup features a couple of just stalwarts in 2A, teams that you see every year that have advanced to state finals and won state finals. You've got Bayshore Christian. Bayshore Christian, they won Area 1 last week. Bayshore Christian beat a really talented Thorsby team, and let me give Bayshore Christian some credit here. Bayshore Christian proved me wrong. I picked Thorsby last week. So Bayshore Christian, congratulations. That was my one loss in 2A. They beat Thorsby, again, a quality team, a 20-win team last week. They beat Thorsby 4-0 and 9-7. They will be on the road this week. They will be traveling to Perennial Power, the Rebels of GW Long, who come in with a record of 18-9. Last week, GW Long swept Aliceville by scores of 14-0 and 15-0. This series will get started on Friday at 4:30. I think this is an interesting series as well. I think so because, Bayshore Christian, they started the season ranked in the top 10. They fell out and they hovered in that 11, 12, 13 spot right outside the top 10. And the reason why their record is 12-11 is they played some quality teams in that Mobile area. I think this is an interesting matchup. GW Long, we've talked about them on every podcast we've had. Everybody who knows high school baseball knows GW Long in 2A, and I think it might be scary for 2A that GW Long has hit their stride. I'm not saying they're going to win it because it's a long road to get there, and that continues this week against Bayshore Christian. But I'm going with the Rebels, man. I mean, they win. And at home, that just adds to it for them. Again, Bayshore Christian, the youngest Malone. Is that Jack? Is that who he is? Yeah, Jack. Yeah, we got several key pieces there.
Guess who? I took a look at their lineup. Guess who their catcher is?
Not Frank.
Oh, man, Frank Mercanti.
Yeah, Frank. Frank's a little gamer, man. I like him. Yep. And when you said catcher, I figured that's who it was. Guys, he'll get after it. I've got to go Rebels, man. At home, playing their best baseball of the season. I think they get it done in advance.
Yeah, I think GW Long, I think they had a little bit of roster turnover from last year's team. But like they say, tradition never graduates. And Coach Drew Miller does a great job of just continuing to, no matter, what the talent is, if they're down in talent, if they're up in talent, you can always count on, when you play GW Long, you're in for a fight, you're in for a war. And especially at home, just down in that Wiregrass area, GW Long is such a tough place to play. They're used to playing in these big games. These players that are on the roster now have seen, 3-4 years ago what it's supposed to look like when GW Long was on that long string of Final Four and state championship appearances. So they know what's expected. The tradition there is as good as it gets in Class 2A and especially in the southern part of the state in any classification. I'm going to go with the Rebels as well, but Bayshore Christian showing the ability to beat some really strong competition. They, like you said, they played some of the top teams down in the Mobile area throughout the most of the season. They beat Thorsby last week, who, like you said, won over 20 games, finished as the runner-up to Reeltown, who we know how good Reeltown is. So Bayshore Christian, they've been able to beat good teams. They played against good teams as good as probably GW Long, but just at home, the Rebels and just the tradition that they bring to the table, know how to win in the playoffs. I'm going with GW Long here, just like you, to advance and what could be a very, very entertaining Elite A matchup down in the Wiregrass area next week.
Yep. So we'll both go with GW Long. Our next series, it'll get started on Friday at 4:30 as well. You've got Area 6 winners, Reeltown. They come in with a record of 21-9. They will be on the road this week. They will be at the winners of Area 2. So you've got two area winners here, Washington County. Washington County comes in with a record of 15-18. Let me go back. Reeltown did finish our regular season ranked number 10 in our last 2A top 10 poll. This one, as I said, will get started on Friday at 4:30. How did these teams get here? Reeltown beat St. Luke's Episcopal last week by scores of 10-0 and 14-7. Washington County was able to slip by Laverne in 3 games. They won game. Listen to these scores, man. They won game 1 12-11, got beat in game 2 13-8, and then won game 3 10-9. So a lot of runs being put up there, and I think maybe
not this week.
I was going to say, you mentioned it a couple matchups ago, strength versus strength. I think it's Reeltown pitching. I think it's Washington County's offense. I think that's what this is going to boil down to. Is Reeltown going to be able to keep them at 2, 3, 4 runs, or is Washington County going to be able to get to 7, 8, 9 runs? You know, that could be the difference in winning this series and losing this series. I'm going to go Reeltown. You know, there's an adage that good pitching beats good hitting. Well, that's still to be determined. I'm going to go with the pitching staff at Reeltown. You know, we know who they're headlined by. I think that this is I think it can go either way. You know, Reeltown is on the road, but I do like those arms. I'm going Reeltown.
Me too. I'm sitting here on Game Changer and it's spinning. I'm trying to pull up because I saw they didn't give. Here we go. They didn't give up a run in the first game. I'm seeing what Jamarcus's line is. Okay, they played 5 innings. Over under 10.5 strikeouts.
Over
11. 5 innings, 1 hit, no runs, no walks, 11 strikeouts.
What class is he in?
He is a freshman. He's a freshman, and he's been up to 92 on the mound with just a wipeout slider. So he is as real as it gets. Tough matchup right out of the gate when you have to say
no walks.
No walks. 75 pitches, 50 strikes.
Wow.
So Jamarcus has definitely got it rolling, and it's not just Jamarcus. I saw them play Beauregard earlier in the season. Top of that lineup is really good. So I'm like you. I'm going to go with Reeltown here. You kind of hit on it. Strength for strength. Reeltown's pitching. They've got another left-handed pitcher behind him who's really good as well. And you throw in Jamarcus, and then Washington County putting up those big runs last week against Laverne. And you said, you know, pitching kind of comes to the forefront in the playoffs, and I like Reeltown's arms to do enough, to pitch it well enough in the top half of their lineup to generate enough runs where they're able to win this series. So I'm going with Reeltown just like you.
Another huge matchup. I'm telling you, this one is
Wiregrass area.
Yes, it is. This is a biggie. You've got Wicksburg. They come in with a record of 20-4. They won Area 3. They finished the season ranked number 3. Last week, they defeated Horseshoe Bend 12-0 and 9-0. Fairly easy first round for them. On the flip side, hosting this week is Addison. Addison finished runner-up to GW Long in Area 4. Addison went on the road last week, and this was a series that we highlighted a week ago. We talked about how good of a series this could be, and it lived up to it. All right. Addison was able to sweep number 9 Tuscaloosa Academy on the road last week by scores of 7-5 and 3-2. Man, this one has heavyweight bout written all over it. Addison, as we've talked about, they're in that same area with GW Long. For years, they matched up, you know, once in the regular season and then would eventually match up in the state playoffs. That very well may happen again this year. Nobody knows. But then you look at Wicksburg. Wicksburg has been as hot as anybody the last half of the season. And I think for a while, and this is probably an error on our part, I don't believe we had them ranked for a while. and then they just started winning, and they climbed our rankings fairly quickly, and they finished number 3. I know this may not be a popular pick, or maybe not be the easy pick.
Uh-oh.
I like Wicksburg, man. And it's tough going to Addison. You mentioned GW Long knows how to win. What's that?
Said I've been there. It's a cool place. Ain't no service, but it's tough to win.
No service. They got the big hill right behind it.
Yep.
Got the big hill. Tough place to win. I think Wicksburg's built for it. We'll find out. Again, a titanic matchup. 3 versus 5. I'm going Wicksburg, man. On the road at a difficult environment.
These teams have played already.
Yep.
They played once back in February. Wicksburg won 3-2 at home. I'm going Addison. I'm going with the Purple Cats, the defending 2A state champs, led by Caden Collier, Lawson Legier, a few other guys. And we'll have somebody there.
I just got a text that I got Wicksburg too.
We'll have somebody there too. Huge matchup down in the Wiregrass. There's multiple, and there's more that we'll talk about here in the next few classifications. I'm going with Addison at home. It's a neat environment. I was there last year when they played Pike. I think it was in the Elite 8 or the Sweet 16. They pretty much shut down their town. They all come to the baseball game. It's a neat little park with how they sit behind home plate on that hill. It's tough to beat a team. They say it's tough to beat a team twice. And it was a 3-2 game in that first game at Wicksburg. I'm going to go with Addison to get a. They know how to win, and it's not a very comfortable pick with Wicksburg having won over 20 games and have run the gauntlet in Class 2A. But I'm ultimately going to side with Addison.
That's a big one, man. I mean, that's 3 versus 5. Well, let's skip up to the north. Our first matchup in the north, we've got another top 10 matchup, another quality matchup, one that can go either way. You've got Collinsville, the Area 13 winners. They finished the season ranked number 6. They currently sit at 25-5. Last week, they swept Altamont by scores of 8-2 and 3-1. They are on the road at Area 16 winner Mars Hill Bible. And Austin, remind the people about Mars Hill Bible and me. What did I do at the beginning of the year?
You got them as your champs.
That was my championship pick at the beginning of the year.
You don't have it in your bracket challenge though. So
I don't. I know. So I'm just trying to get as many possible ways to win as possible. So I don't know. Let's see who I pick this week. I may have to go against my pick. But again, they're on the road at Mars Hill Bible. Last week, Mars Hill Bible swept Winston County by winning by scores of 12-1 and 17-1. Mars Hill finished the season ranked number 7. As I mentioned, it is at Mars Hill. This one will get started on Friday at 4:00. The if necessary game will be Saturday at noon. Man, just yet another. Another matchup that can legitimately go either way. Again, 20-7, 25-5. I mean, wow. I mean, what these two teams have done all year is impressive. I talked to several of the guys at Collinsville, including my man Gavin Lang at the Sardis Boaz series. They're going to be mad at me, man. Because as much as I like Collinsville, I'm going with the home team this week. I'm going Mars Hill. I've been to Mars Hill last year when I forget who they played. I went to their state playoff series. It was a great raucous.
Decatur Heritage.
It was Decatur Heritage. That's correct. Yep. It was a raucous atmosphere. And I think that's what led me to maybe side with Mars Hill Bible. I do think these are two evenly matched teams. My people at Collinsville, don't be mad at me, but I'm going with Mars Hill.
Y'all can be mad at him all y'all want. I'm going Collinsville.
I hear you.
We talked about Collinsville. We didn't have them ranked to start the season. They quickly got our attention throughout the first few weeks. They rose and rose and rose. I think they got up, where are they, number 5 or 6? This is 5 or 6, isn't it?
6, yes.
This is 6 versus 7. And we honestly wanted to move Collinsville up even more, but just the teams above them kind of held status quo. You look at Mars Hill. Cam Isbell has done some good innings. Jackson Pogue is a senior who's had a good season. Our guy, another freshman right-handed pitcher who's thrown a lot this year, Brooks Campbell. I think he throws game 1 or 2, has had quality outing after quality outing. You look at Collinsville, led by who you mentioned, Gavin Lang. You've got Mason McAteer in the leadoff spot. Will Edmondson, Jeremiah Killian, their catcher, who I think is another freshman in their 3-hole. Gavin Lang had 10 strikeouts in 6 innings last week in game 1. I'm going with the Panthers. I'm rolling with Collinsville here. They've been impressive all year long. Like you said, it's going to be a really good high school playoff environment and atmosphere. Another big matchup going on in the North. But I'm going with Collinsville here to go on the road and sneak out to win 2 of 3 games.
And again, man, that's the way it should be, man. I mean, 6 versus 7, we split that pick, not on purpose, but one of us is going to be happy, one of us is not. So that's a big matchup. Another one, moving on down in the North, you've got Vincent. Vincent was the Area 9 winners last week. Vincent swept Lindsay Lane by scores of 11-1 and 13-2. And we've been impressed with Vincent for several years now. And last week, that was a series that we said that don't be surprised if Lindsay Lane gives Vincent some trouble. We both picked Vincent to win, obviously. But I think those scores maybe took us a little bit by surprise. Not surprised that Vincent won, but I think that shows the strength of Vincent. We do have Vincent as the number 1 team in 2A in our last poll. They are at 26-4 right now, and they're every bit deserving of that number 1 ranking. They will be on the road this week. They'll be traveling to Fife. This series will get started on Friday at 4:30, with the if necessary game on Saturday at 1 o'clock. Fife has a record of 22-11. They finished the runner-up in Area 15 to North Sand Mountain. Last week, Fife, let me find this for a second. Last week, Fife swept Locust Fork by scores of 12-5 and 17-2. And we mentioned this last week about up on that mountain at Fife. Let me tell you something. You think that town's going to be there? That town evolves around that high school. We mentioned it last week. They know how to win. It's in their DNA. Their football team every year is in the state finals, it seems, and usually wins it. It's going to be a great atmosphere, I'm sure. Fife has had a fantastic season, but how can you not go with Vincent this week? In my opinion, I'm not putting words into your mouth, but I just think that Vincent is, again, runner-up a year ago, returned just about all their pieces. They've added some young guys to the mix. You've got Aiden Poe. We talked about his stat line last week. The leadoff hitter, what was his? Do you remember?
Fields.
Yeah, love it. Cason Fields, love their leadoff hitter. That's not all they've got. They've got some more pieces.
Landon Archer is that freshman, right? We couldn't get the name last week.
That's correct. Yes,
Landon
that is
Archer.
correct. Up to 85 when I saw him, really tight breaking ball. Man, I've got to go Vincent this week. And again, that's nothing towards Fife. I think this could it'd be neat to be there because Fife is going to support their team. Vincent's going to bring people as well. But man, Vincent's got a chance to win the whole thing, and I think they continue to roll this week.
Yeah, too much Vincent. Just the way the arms stack up. You mentioned the guys like Cason Fields, who we talked about last week. Aiden Poe also hits in the middle of that order. Grayson Gould is another big-time left-handed bat. Uncommitted.
Camden Cobb.
And they've got for college programs, they've got some really good uncommitted juniors and seniors to get out and see, and we hope to see them here in the next couple of weeks. We'll see how it all shapes out, but I'm going with Vincent. Too much Vincent. The Yellow Jackets look primed for another deep run that finishes in Oxford and Jacksonville, and we'll see how it shapes up. Last year they finished as the runner-up. This year they're hoping to hold up the blue map, but there's some other big-time players in 2A this year.
All right, next matchup, Donahoe. Donahoe has a record of 13-12. They will be hosting Wicksburg Christian this week, a team that has been playing very well of late. This series will get started on Thursday at 4 o'clock. Let's take a look at how they got here. Donahoe, they finished right outside of our top 10 to finish the season. Donahoe beat Southeastern last week, 2 tightly contested games, 4-2, and I forget the second game, but I think it was a close game. Wicksburg Christian swept Fayetteville, and we talked about that last week, that we knew that Fayetteville would give Wicksburg Christian as much as they wanted, and they did, but Wicksburg Christian was able to sweep 2 tight games, and one game won by a score of 3-2, and one game 2, 5-1. Wicksburg Christian won Area 14. They finished the season number 8 and currently have a 19-7 record. Man, this is 2 teams that we've had circled all year long. I'm obviously Austin goes into more of our analysis, but you've got Blake Sewell and a strong supporting cast there at Donahoe. Again, some other pieces at Wicksburg Christian. You've got Luke Holbrook, a 2-way guy. You've got Andrew Summers, Caleb Robertson. You just keep going on down that line. I think this is an interesting matchup. I think it's one that can go either way. I'll be honest with you. I feel like I've said that a lot this week, but I guess that's the way it's supposed to be as the playoffs get deeper and deeper, into the road to the blue map. But I think Wicksburg Christian's been playing too good of late. I like Wicksburg Christian here to go on the road and get this win over Donahoe. Donahoe, they did finish runner-up, but that was to Collinsville, and we just talked about what we think of Collinsville. It's not going to surprise me if Donahoe sweeps this. I mean, that's just the way, and I mean that, not just giving props to Donahoe because I want to. This is a toss-up, man, but I'm going to go with the road team. Again, I told you, I think I've gone with too many road teams this week, but I'm going to do it again.
Oh, man, look who we got in the comments.
Look at there. Tanner Burns. What up, cuz? Tanner Burns. Oh, man.
We need to get him on here.
We need Tanner Burns to come on the podcast. I tell you what, next week, Tanner, you need to be our guest pick for the Elite 8. That's what you need to do. In AAA right now. Best of luck, man, on your trek to the big leagues. I keep calling them the Indians, but it's the Guardians, man. But I'm sorry, I got off task. Give me the Warriors of Wicksburg Christian.
Yeah, there's something about me that wants to go Donahoe this week. I feel like Donahoe has been kind of, and they didn't get off to a good start at all. But they've really put it together as of late. You mentioned Blake Sewell. They've got Marcus Lawler, Kai Kleckler, Hayes Farrell, Peyton Webb. They've got a strong supporting cast. You talked about Wicksburg Christian. You add in Evan Dodd on the mound. I think Ryan Pugh is that freshman. Yep. Man, I'm going Donahoe.
It may be Ben Pugh. His last name is Pugh.
Yeah. I'm going Donahoe here.
I'm
going Donahoe at home. There's Tanner. He said, I'll do it.
We got a guest picker next week, man.
I'm going Donahoe. I think the Falcons have they've been deep in the playoffs. You look the last 5 years. Like I mentioned, didn't get off to a great start this year, but have righted the ship. Have beaten some really quality teams. I like the supporting cast. They're really good. Especially the top half, the middle half of that lineup is really good. I think they score. I think they do just enough. They do just enough to beat Wicksburg Christian and is another big time series in the North.
So we'll split that one and we'll go to our last Class 2A matchup of the week, and it's another intriguing one. North Sand Mountain 1, Area 15. They finished the season right outside our top 10 and very well could have been ranked. They're at 23-9. They will be on the road at Red Bay. Red Bay comes in with a 17-6 record. They finished right outside of our top 10 as well. This series will get started on Friday at 4:30. How did these two teams get here? North Sand Mountain last week swept Holly Pond by scores of 10-0 and 7-3. So, that was an impressive two-game sweep for North Sand Mountain. Red Bay won two low-scoring, tight games over Lamar County. Red Bay won 6-3 and 2-1. And again, like I mentioned earlier, man, these teams that come in that have been pushed to the limit, these teams that have been tested, that says a lot, that it's not just easy, that you have to earn it, and it helps you down the line. And I like Red Bay, man. Red Bay they're at home. The whole town of Red Bay will be there. It'll be a raucous environment, and that's pretty much the norm at these state playoff settings. But man, I think North Sand Mountain has been quietly putting together a big time year. I think that continues this week. I think they go on the road and they defeat Red Bay. I don't think it'll be easy. I think Red Bay could very well win this series and move on. But again, I hate to keep doing it, but I picked another road team. I don't like it, but I just have to go with what I think. So give me North Sand Mountain.
Yeah. North Sand Mountain advanced to the Sweet 16 last year. They were ranked inside the top 10, I think, for a couple of weeks last year. Have continued to build off the success that they had last year. A little bit of I think they're a program that's on the come up. They've had a really good past few seasons. They brought back a good amount of that offense from last year. You look at some of their players, Caden Moore and Colton Cooper, two seniors who can swing it and also pitch. Mikey Poss, Luke Reed are two left-handed pitchers and can also hit as well. Jackson Burgess, who we know is a sophomore who hits towards the top of that lineup. Red Bay having a really good record. Have another team. I mentioned it about Donahoe as well, but I wouldn't say Red Bay is probably as much of a well-known commodity in 2A as Donahoe is, but Red Bay has kind of been under the weeds as well. Maybe a sleeper pick here. But I'm going to go with the Bison here. I'm going with North Sand Mountain. They won their area, but this is another matchup that could go either way in Class 2A. North Sand Mountain continues to make strides, and I think that they advance to the Elite Eight. They continue to build off prior performances year after year. I like them to take 2 out of 3 in this series and move on to the Elite Eight.
So that's our picks for 2A, and we'll jump right into 3A. We've got an interesting matchup right off the get-go. You've got Thomasville. Thomasville was the Area 5 winners. Thomasville comes in with a record of 18-5. I think that may be off a little bit. I think they're 24-4 maybe. Regardless.
Yeah, they
regardless. Are. Yeah, regardless. They've had a very impressive season. They finished the season ranked number 3 in our last 3A poll. They will be on the road at Houston Academy, a notoriously strong small school power. Houston Academy comes in at 13-12. Houston Academy finished as the runner-up in Area 3 this week. Houston Academy, as I said, will be hosting this week. Last week, Houston Academy went on the road and beat a quality Oakman team who had a record of 16-6. They won in 3 games. Houston Academy won game 1 5-4, lost game 2 14-7, and was able to defeat Oakman in game 3 by a score of 6-1. Thomasville, on the other hand, defeated Strawn. They defeated Strawn by a score of 4.
Yeah. You're right. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. They beat Strawn 4-1, and then in game 1, and then they won game 2 7-5. So, man, 2 really tight games for Thomasville last week. This series will get started on Friday at 5:00 at Houston Academy. Listen, Houston Academy, notoriously strong program. Houston Academy, they've got a lot of good young talent. I think that's going to be a team that you continue to see their name, and you've seen their name the past few years, and you're going to continue to see that name at Houston Academy. Again, Thomasville put together a 24-4 record so far. Those 2 tight wins last week, I think that's good for them. I'm going Thomasville to go on the road and win a series that I expect to be highly competitive and tightly contested 2 or 3 games. I don't think there's a blowout in any game here. I think it's 3 tightly contested games. But I'm going with the road team, Thomasville. I'm gonna regret taking all these road teams. I'm telling you, I'm gonna regret it.
And I hope that you do, because I'm going Houston Academy. I think that may be an upset, but I don't know if you can call it an upset, because Houston Academy won the 3A state championship last year. They lost a good bit, but I mean they bring back a bunch of guys and are led by Cam Dyer, their catcher, who's one of the top catchers down in the Wiregrass area. Man, this is a matchup that you could probably flip a coin on and just say move on with it.
Yep, you could.
I'm going Houston Academy. Thomasville, they've been ranked, like you meant, they've been ranked high in Class 3 all year long, and it's tough to go against a team that is 24-4, 25-4. They've only lost 4 times. But Houston Academy going on the road last week to Oakman. Oakman had a really good record. They won their area, have been playing had played really solid baseball all year long. And then Houston Academy was able to go there and win that game 3. And there's, like we say, there's something that needs to be said about playing the game 3s early in the playoffs, knowing how to win when your back's against the wall. I'm going Houston Academy. It's you could go back and forth with this matchup. I'm going Houston Academy, and I'm saying moving on. I'm moving on with it.
Gotcha. All right. Well, we'll get to a top 10 matchup. You've got Opp. Opp comes in with a record of 19-6. They're the Area 4 winners. They finished the season ranked number 9. They are traveling to St. James. St. James was the Area 6 runner-up to Prattville Christian. St. James finished the season ranked number 10. They currently sit at 19-11. This series will get started on Friday at 4:30. Last week, Opp defeated Dadeville. They defeated Dadeville by scores of 12-2 and 6-2. And I talked last week about Dadeville, some inside info I got on them. Some really talented pieces there. Opp was able to take care of business. They swept. And then St. James also was able to sweep. They swept Flomaton a week ago by scores of 8-0 and 15-2. Really, really impressive week for St. James, man. St. James is as you've seen them, finishing runner-up to Prattville Christian in that area. There's no shame in that whatsoever. St. James is a quality team, man, and I really like them. But yes, I'm going to go Opp. There's just something about Opp. We've talked about them. Opp has played very well of late. Again, they're 19-6. I'm going to go Opp. And as I've said, our listeners are probably sick of hearing it. I'm taking too many road teams. Yeah. I'm going to try to say that anymore. Yeah. I'm going Opp.
Keep taking them. I'm going St. James. They've got some 2 good arms on the mound. You look at Tabor Alford. We talked about him, uncommitted 2025 left-handed pitcher outfielder. So he had an absolute bomb last week. I think it was his first of the season in their playoff matchup, and then was lights out on the mound. Charlie Cutler is a sophomore, another big right-hander. I saw him up to 86 earlier this season. So those 2 arms are going to give you a chance against anybody you play. They've also got I'm forgetting their leadoff hitter, wide receiver recruit who's going to play at UNA. Last name's Hauser, Clint Hauser, I think. And then they've got other pieces up and down their lineup as well. Tough to go against Opp because Opp, we talked about Opp, the Bobcats. They got off to an 0-4 or 1-4 start that we keep talking about, and they just continue to roll. Another tough matchup to make a pick on. I like St. James here. Got off to a great start last week, and I just like the way that their pitching stacks up, and the lineup has seemed like it's been swinging it well. Last week scored 23 runs in 2 games and only gave up 2.
Yeah.
I'm going with the Trojans.
You know what? I'm sticking with Op, but I think you just may have you put some serious doubt in my mind, man.
Yeah, man, someone's blowing you up.
Yeah, man. I get all kinds of
Nobody text me, man. Y'all gotta text me.
All right, so we'll move on to our next matchup in 3A. You've got Area 6 winners, Prattville Christian. Prattville Christian comes in with a record of 22-10. They finished the regular season ranked number 7. They will be on the road at Excel. Excel finished the season right outside of our top 10. They have a record of 19-9. They won Area 2 earlier this year. Prattville Christian swept Cottage Hill Christian last week by scores of 11-1 and 10-5, so fairly dominating fashion. Also, you speak of dominating fashion. I don't know if it gets any more dominant than Excel's sweep of South Side of Selma. They won by scores of 15-0 and 15-0. So that's really, really impressive there. Again, both of these teams come in with a lot of momentum. Both of these teams come in after impressive sweeps a week ago. Give me Prattville Christian. I like Prattville Christian. I like those arms at the front of that rotation. Bryce Masters. You've seen Prattville Christian this year. Excel's a team that really caught our attention halfway through the season, but I'm going Prattville Christian to go on the road and get this win.
So am I. I'm going Prattville Christian. We just talked about St. James, finished behind Prattville Christian. So Prattville Christian has really played well all year long. You look at guys like, Cody Baker, their left-handed hitting catcher, hits in the middle of that order. Tyler Bullard, Parker Blake, Connor Williams, Luke Lawson, Blake Bowman. You mentioned Bryce Masters, Jake Diefendorfer. They're pretty balanced 1 through 9 and have some really good arms on the mound. I know Connor Williams hit a bomb last week in their playoff series. Really physical and athletic player. I know he plays 3 sports as well. Prattville Christian is another one of those teams in 3A who have a chance to make a deep run, and I like Prattville Christian here. You said it on the road.
That is correct. Prattville Christian is on the road.
I'm still going to stick with the Panthers. I like Prattville Christian just like you.
Moving on, our last matchup in the South in 3A, you've got number 6, Providence Christian. Area 3 winners. They come in with a record of 19-8. They will be on the road at New Brockton. New Brockton has a 20-11 record. They finished runner-up in Area 4. They finished runner-up to Op, and we talked about how good we think Op is. This series will be getting started on Friday at 4:30, and I don't know if I've mentioned this or not, but all of these series so far are getting started on Friday. And if I failed to mention that, I apologize. But again, back to this matchup, number 6 Providence Christian at New Brockton with a 20-11 record. This one will get started on Friday at 4:30. These two teams swept their way to round 2. New Brockton defeated Beulah in 2 games by a score of 10-4 and 6-5, while Providence Christian handedly beat Indian Springs by scores of 16-2 and 13-2. So we've got 2 teams coming in with impressive sweeps from a week ago. Maybe it's that Dothan area this year that's got some really strong teams down there, which they notoriously do. But I think this year is no exception. I like Providence Christian again to go on the road and defeat New Brockton. Providence Christian was dominant a week ago. New Brockton, beat Beulah handedly, but I think the level of competition makes a little bit of a jump this week for New Brockton. And again, I think Providence Christian gets it done. They're a talented team, pretty deep there as well. So give me Providence Christian on the road.
Yeah, I think we'll see the availability for Porter Dykes on the mound. I don't think he threw in their first round series, but he's going to be a tough. He's going to find a way to make an impact, even if he's pitching or not. He hits leadoff for them. You look at Winbrock had a really good start last week in Game 1. Brooks Kennedy behind him in Game 2. You got other guys on their lineup like Chappell Stickler, Chance Smith, Brooks Kennedy, and Porter Dykes, just like I mentioned. So they're very balanced. And have found the pieces behind Porter Dykes to be able to make that pitching staff work. And then you look at New Brockton, two more really good arms, and we talked about them last week. Peyton Green and Trent Smith, both I think low to mid 80s arms on the mound, have really threw the ball well for New Brockton. I'm going Providence Christian as well. I just like the way that their offense stacks up. I think it's going to kind of be a little bit another instance of strength on strength. You look at New Brockton, those two arms on the mound, and they can swing it as well. They've got other pieces as well. Their arms, kind of those two arms, a little bit of their strength, and then you go up against a Providence Christian lineup who put up double-digit runs in both games last week, led by Porter Dykes and Winbrock and Brooks Kennedy, a bunch of those guys that I just mentioned. I think a little bit too much Providence Christian in a very tightly contested series. Could go either way, but we're both going to side with Providence Christian this year, who's beaten some higher classification schools so far this season.
So we'll jump to the north in 3A. Our first matchup in the north will give us a look at our number one ranked team, Lauderdale County. Lauderdale County will be at home this week. They finished as the Area 16 winners. They defeated Glencoe last week, and I'll be honest with you, I think I think
it was a walk-off in the bottom of the 8th or bottom of the 9th in Game 1.
Yes, it was. And this was a interesting series that we were following, as we were out and about. But Lauderdale County was able to sweep Glencoe a week ago. They won 5-4 in extra innings on a walk-off, and then they defeated Glencoe in Game 2 by a score of 4-1. Plainview, on the other hand, Plainview finished the season as the Area 13 winners. They were right outside of our top 10. They currently have a 24-7 record. This series will get started on Thursday at 4:30. Again, that's Thursday at 4:30. You look at these two teams. You've got Lauderdale County, who we currently have ranked number 1 in our 3A poll, led by that dynamic duo, the front two, the front two high-level arms that lead the way for Lauderdale County. And then you've got a quality Plainview club that, you've mentioned this before, having winning in your DNA. We mentioned it last week. Those Plainview guys, I'm sure they play multiple sports. Winning is in their DNA. I know their softball team is good. Athletics is important, period, across the board at Plainview, which is great. Kudos to Plainview for investing in their athletics. But I can't go against our number 1 team at home. I do think that, Plainview is a threat. I can assure you that. But I'm going to go Lauderdale County. Again, that pitching staff at the top just impresses me. And because of that, give me Lauderdale County to advance to the Elite 8.
Yeah, you look at Plainview, a team who has been outside the top 10, probably had a really strong case to be ranked towards the end of the season, have really been playing well as of late. Really kind of dominated last week's series. Plainview is have really swung it well, especially the top of their order. Trey Rutledge hits in the 3-hole for them at their shortstop. Reagan Davis at the top of their order. Elijah Sampson. They've really had a strong season. And then you talked about Lauderdale County, led by those two arms. Miles Edwards, who's headed to UAH, also plays shortstop for them. And then Skylar Tucker.
I think he's headed to Wallace.
Wallace Hansville. And then you look at Skylar Tucker, uncommitted junior, southpaw, who's left-handed pitcher, first baseman. I think he plays first base as well. Those two arms out of the gate are really tough. And then they also swing it as well, have talent up and down their order. And Lauderdale County is another, just like Plainview, has been trending really well down the back half of the season. They come into the playoffs with just 4 losses. And it's just, those 2 arms right out of the gate, those 2 starters, that's a tough matchup for any team. And that's a big reason why I'm going to pick Lauderdale County as well. They're another team in 3A who have a real chance to make it to Oxford for the state championship in Class 3A. And I like them here to roll and to beat Plainview. Could very well see it going 3 games, but should be a really, really high-level series. Excited to see how it shapes out. But we're both going to go with Lauderdale County.
And that'll get us to our next matchup. You've got, let me get this pulled up. You've got Gordo, the Green Wave. They come in at 21-8, winners of Area 9. They will be on the road at the winners of Area 12, Susan Moore. Susan Moore comes in with a record of 16-8. This series will get started on Friday at 4:30. A week ago, Susan Moore swept Colbert Heights by scores of 7-6 and 12-10. 2 fairly high-scoring, close 2 games. Gordo was able to defeat Vinemont by scores of 11-1 and 8-2. Gordo finished the season ranked number 5 in our last top 10 poll in 3A. Again, they will be on the road this week. Man, I'm not going to beat around the bush here. Susan Moore has had a good season, but Gordo is one of those teams every year that can win it all. Coming off an impressive first-round sweep over Vinemont a week ago. Susan Moore sort of struggled a little bit with Colbert Heights. I like Gordo, and I may regret saying this, and if I do, I want the people from Susan Moore to remind me next week, but I like Gordo pretty convincingly this week.
I like Susan Moore. Sorry. I'm picking Gordo. Susan Moore at the top of they've got that left-handed pitcher, Corbin Hamrick, who can beat anybody in Class 3A. We've seen him in the summer at our PBR tournaments. He's a mid-80s left-handed pitcher, can really pitch, has a really good slider. He's going to be a tough out in Game 1 against Gordo. We'll see how Game 1 shapes out, but after that, I like the Green Wave to be able to, even if they do lose the first game against Hamrick or whatever game Hamrick throws, I like Gordo to be able to win the other 2 games to win the series. So I like them possibly in a sweep, but if not, I like them to be able to find a way to win 2 of those 3 games. And it's another team who winning. They just know how to win. Another school that expects to win, has great tradition in all sports. And football, they're a powerhouse in football. They're a powerhouse in baseball. And they certainly are another team who looks to be one of the favorites again in Class 3A. Give me the Green Wave here to advance to the Elite 8.
And our next matchup features a perennial power and a team that really caught everyone's attention last week. And they shouldn't catch your attention because they've been good all year. We probably should have had them ranked towards the end of the year. I don't mind saying that. But you've got Piedmont, the Bulldogs. They are ranked number 4 in our last top 10 poll of the season. They currently sit at 22-11. They won Area 10. They will be on the road at Fayette County. Fayette County finished runner-up in Area 9 to Gordo. You talk about the strength of that area. Well, there's Gordo with the win. Gordo won that area, and Fayette County finished runner-up. Fayette County had one of the bigger, I guess you have to call it an upset due to ranking, but, Fayette County had one of the biggest, it jumped out at you that the end of that how that series played out. Fayette County defeated our number 2 ranked team last week in the first round, Decatur Heritage. Let's look at the scores there. Fayette County finished right outside of our top 10. Piedmont dominated Sylvania. They won 8-0 and they won 17-0. We've talked about schools that have a winning pedigree. Piedmont has that in baseball and in other sports as well. Again, that's a team that's used to winning. They will be on the road this week. They will be at Fayette County. And we mentioned Fayette County with that 3-game series win over Decatur Heritage, which was at Decatur Heritage. They dropped game 1 by a score of 5-2. They came back and they won game 2. Forget the score, and then they won.
They beat them pretty convincingly. I think it was like 12-5 or something.
Yeah, 12-5. I was thinking 12-4. Yes, and then they won game 3, 8-3. And man, we had talked about Decatur Heritage was built for a 3-game series. And again, no slight to Decatur Heritage. I mean, that's a good team. There's no doubt about it. But you've got to give props to Fayette County going on the road and defeating the number 2 team in the state in 3A. Again, these two teams sort of mirror each other in terms of record. Piedmont is at 22-11. Fayette County's at 23-11. It'd be easy to go Piedmont because of the wins and the tradition and just a talented lineup. It'd be really easy to go Piedmont. It'd also be easy to go Fayette County after a series sweep and being at home. Give me the Bulldogs. Mm-hmm. I'm going Piedmont.
Dang.
Going Piedmont. Yeah. Do you think I was going the other way?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And I would say to those Piedmont people who were probably looking ahead to probably, we're going to have to play Decatur Heritage in the second round, and now we're not going to have to. Fayette County is good. Fayette County, we talked about it, and Fayette County and Gordo split those first 2 games in their area, and then Gordo won the last game. So Fayette County is, like you said, probably should have been ranked. I'm forgetting their catcher for Fayette County. It'll come to me, but Piedmont has a really tough lineup at the top of the order. Cole Austin, an 8th grader, does not play like an 8th. I saw he threw a no-hitter last week in their first game. You look at other guys like McLean Mohan, Cale Austin, Brody Holmesley. They've got talent up and down the roster and guys who have multiple years of varsity experience at the Class 3A level and have not only have experience of playing at the varsity level, they have experience of playing deep into the playoffs, which is very valuable for any team to have that experience for players who know how to play in the deep rounds of the playoff, because you can't lie to yourself. Playing in the playoffs, it's
different.
It's different, yeah. So I'm going with the Bulldogs as well, and that's probably good news for the Fayette County people that were both picking against them once again this week. But I'm going to go with Piedmont as well.
Yeah, that's no doubt about it. That's an interesting series. Our last series in 3A, you've got Colbert County. Colbert County they were the winners of Area 15. A week ago, they beat JB Pennington 8-2 and 18-10. So 2 fairly convincing different type wins last week over JB Pennington. They will be at home this week as Westbrook Christian will be on the road at Colbert County. Westbrook Christian was the Area 11 winners. They finished the season ranked number 8. They currently sit at, I believe it's 18-10. All right. Yeah, they're 18-10. Again, they will be at Colbert County 16-14. Let me go back. The Piedmont series begins Thursday at 4:30. This one also begins Thursday at 4:30. The Piedmont series, if necessary, game will be Friday at 1. And in the Westbrook Christian Colbert County, if necessary, game that would be on Friday at 3:00. So make sure that we know that. Listen, man, this is sort of an intriguing little matchup here. I think Westbrook Christian, that's a notorious power in 3A baseball. I think they sort of midway through the season, they sort of scuffled a little bit, but it seems like they've gotten seems like they've gotten back on track, I guess you can say. Again, an impressive sweep last week over Elkmont, Colbert County with that sweep over JB Pennington. I do think that the level of competition jumps up a significant amount for Colbert County this week. I like the depth at Westbrook Christian, both on the mound and the player, and from a player standpoint, a positional player standpoint. And because of that, I'm going to go Westbrook Christian.
Yeah, I am as well. Westbrook Christian has been ranked inside of our top 10 for pretty much the majority of the season, led by guys like Dylan Rainey, Brody Johnson, their shortstop, Dylan Rainey, their third baseman, right-handed pitcher, throws a good do what?
Braden Kay is another arm that has come on for them. I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, so they have the pieces. I really like Westbrook Christian here, and they handle business really well in the first round, beating Elkmont pretty convincingly, and I like them to beat Colbert County. Probably not in the same convincing fashion, but I like them to beat Colbert County here to advance the Elite Eight.
So we'll jump straight in to Class 4A. Right off the bat, we've got a matchup of two teams with 20 or more wins. You've got Munford. Munford won Area 8. They currently sit at 20-7. They were right outside of our top 10. They will be at home this week, and they will be hosting the number 1 ranked Choctaws of Bibb County, who come in with a record of 28-3. Both of these teams swept last week. This one will get started on Friday at 4:30. Again, it is at Munford. Last week, Munford swept Geneva by a score of 14-0 and 9-7. They pretty much did what we thought they would do and what they expected to do. And Bibb County defeated T.R. Miller by a score of 9-1 and 3-1. So, you look at both of these teams. Bibb County gave up a total of 2 runs in 2 games, and we know headlined by Matthew Cash. I think he threw game 1, maybe wrong. They gave up 2 total runs. Munford a shutout in game 1, and then was able to beat Geneva 9-7 in game 2. Man, listen, we've had Bibb County ranked high all year long. I said that they were finished number 1, and they were number 1 for the last 4, 5, 6 weeks of our poll. Man, I'm going with the road team, but this one, this is the number 1 team in the state. I'm not saying they're going to win it all, but they're a bona fide contender in 4A. I'm going Choctaws of Bibb County to go on the road and get this series taken care of.
Me too. The 28-2 record. You play 30 games and you win 28 of them. And I think one of those losses came to Northridge.
And one came to Shelby County the week of playoffs.
That's right.
Yep.
Bibb County has been impressive from start to finish, and led by, like you said, Matthew Cash. Bodie Gideons is another middle-of-the-order hitter for them who brings back multiple years of experience. The middle of their lineup can really swing it. They've found the pieces on the mound as well, and they're really quality. I mean, you have to have plenty of depth when you play 30 games and you win 28 of them. I mean, there's really been no letdown for the Choctaws. Munford has had a great season. Anytime you win over 20 games in whatever classification, it's something that's very noteworthy. But the talent's going to continue to take a big step forward in this matchup for Munford. I'm going to go with Bibb County, just like you. Our number 1 team in 4A. I like them to win this matchup.
Next matchup is really intriguing, and I'll be honest, this is no disrespect, but it's one that we didn't anticipate. Just to be straight up honest with you, I think we both took Trinity Presbyterian last week. Trinity Presbyterian, the winners of Area 4. They defeated Montevallo last week. Trinity finished the season ranked right outside of our top 10. Trinity currently has a 23-10 record. They defeated Montevallo last week by scores of 11-1 and 23-1. Just a dominant first round series from Trinity Presbyterian. They will be on the road this week, and they will be on the road at Northside. We talked about some surprises in the first round. I don't think this one was as surprise. And again, everything that we say, there's no disrespect towards teams, but this one was a really, this one really jumped out at us when it came across Game Changer, because Bayside Academy is a talented group and a team that a lot of people picked to be a possible state champion in 4A. Well, Northside went on the road.
I know I did.
I did not. All right. I'm not going to give you I'll tell you who I picked later on, but I did not pick Bayside, but I had them going deep. All right. Northside went on the road last week and lost game 1 by a score of 4-0. Again, this is the number 2 team in the state they're playing. They were able to bounce back and win the next 2 games to advance. They won by scores of 9-4, and then won game 3. I think they scored 2 in the 7th, maybe. They were down.
I was tracking it.
Yeah.
Northside was winning early in the middle part of the game. Bayside scored 3 to go up what was it? They went up to go 6-5.
It was 7-6 final. Yeah.
Yeah. They went up 6-5. They went to the 7th inning, top of the 7th. Northside had bases loaded with 2 outs, 2 strikes, and a 2-strike, 2-out, 2 RBI single to center field gave them a 7-6 lead, and then went out and got 3 outs.
Yeah. That was impressive. And you have to tip your hat to Northside. We don't say all this to take a shot at Bayside. That's not what we mean whatsoever. But you tip your hat to Northside. They beat a talented team on the road. But this week they've got Trinity Presbyterian coming in. And Trinity Presbyterian is a name synonymous with success in playoff baseball across Alabama. They come in with a record of 23-10. Man, that's a good-looking club. Obviously, Fleming Hall is not throwing, but he's helping them from an offensive standpoint. And they have reeled off some impressive wins, and it's hard to go against Trinity. But for once, I'm going with the hot team.
Dang.
I'm taking Northside to continue to ride that wave from last week. They're at home. Finally, I'm going with the home team. I'm taking Northside.
All right, I'm going Trinity. I thought you were going Trinity all the way. I'm going to go Northside. I'll go Trinity. I'll go with the Wildcats. You mentioned Fleming Hall, Brady Rascal just committed to Reed State.
That's right, Brady.
They've got other pieces as well. Boswell kid, Ross Sanders, McClinton. They've got a really deep offensive lineup. We'll see how they're able to pitch it. They just need to pitch it enough and let the offense generate runs. Northside is like you mentioned, playing as hot as anybody. Huge series win last week. I'll go with the Wildcats here. I'll go with Trinity Presbyterian.
Moving right along in this week's matchup, you've got American Christian. They're 21-16. They were able that, it was a series I was at on Friday. They were able to win a 3-game set against Orange Beach. That was a number 4 versus number 5 matchup, one that we circled, one that we highlighted and said it may be the premier matchup across the state, and it did go 3 games. I know you saw American Christian earlier in the year, and that was my first time to see them, and I see why you were so impressed with them. That is a loaded roster. Again, they defeated Orange Beach last week. They lost game 1, 6-1. And then they were able to come back and win the next 2 games by a score of 7-3 and 7-1. Again, they finished number 4 in our final standings. They were sort of up and down all year. They played, their schedule was brutal, littered with 6 and 7A programs across their whole entire schedule, and they won a lot of those games. They will be on the road at Satsuma. The Gators finished right outside of our top 10 in 4A. They come in with a record of 21-8. This series will get started on Friday at 4. Man, call me a believer in American Christian. Mm-hmm. And I had circled them, as I told you, I tell you when I talked about my winner, I picked American Christian to win the whole thing. And after game 1 last week, I was worried.
Yeah.
After Orange Beach beat them, I'm like, uh-oh, my state champ's going to be out. But they came back, and man, there's no easy outs in that lineup 1 through 9. They can mash it all over the place. Cade Durrett, Eric Hines, left-handed, the first baseman. Holy cow!
Evan Lightsey,
Bubba Lester at shortstop. Yeah,
Jalen
Crocker behind the plate and game 1 starter, and Colton Mitchell. I mean, they on the mound in game 2. He's been their ace all year. I walked away impressed with American Christian, and I'm going to go with them again. I picked them to win it all. I'm obviously going with them. They better not let their guard down after beating Orange Beach. They better be ready to go to Satsuma. Satsuma will be waiting on them, but give me Orange Beach. Just too talented.
Yeah, Satsuma's had a really good year. Another team under the radar in 4A. They obviously dominated their area, swept through it. Have won over 20 games in the regular season, but American Christian is, and we kind of said last week, the winner of that American Christian and Orange Beach winner, they have a pretty favorable path to making it to the Final Four. Now, not saying it's going to be easy, not saying that any of these teams aren't capable of beating American Christian, they certainly are, but just their American Christians, their lineup. They have enough pieces on the mound to where they're able to let their offense kind of take over, and their offense is as good as anybody's in 4A. They're battle tested. They played some big time opponents this season, and hopes to prepare them. And it prepared them last week, and I think it prepares them again this week. I like American Christian, like you. Just too much offense for them. I like them to advance the Elite Eight.
Yep, I'm sold. Absolutely. Our next matchup, Andalusia. Andalusia will. Let me see. Let me see who's going to be the home team here. Let's see, because this one wasn't decided until yesterday. Right. Yeah. Right. So let's see. I believe that Oak Grove. Is the home team. I may be wrong on that. If there's anybody out there that knows, please let me know. But you've got Andalusia. They are the winners of Area 3. They finished 4A right outside the top 10. Andalusia comes in with a record of 15-10. They will be matched up in the round of 16 with Oak Grove, who won Area 7. They finished the season ranked number 10 in our final 4A poll. I may be wrong, but I do think this is at Oak Grove. If anybody's going, don't bank on me being completely right. Make sure you verify before you go, but I think it's at Oak Grove. Regardless, Oak Grove, as I mentioned, they come in with a record of 20-11. They got here. This series did not finish until yesterday. They defeated Montgomery Catholic in 2 tight games. They won 7-5 and 5-3. Andalusia, they also swept through the first round. They beat Hanley by scores of 8-5 and 4-2. Man, I'm going with Oak Grove. Oak Grove was a team that we sort of noticed the last couple weeks of the season. They got hot and have been playing well. They come in, as I said, 21-10, finished ranked number 10. I'm going Oak Grove. And I also think something else, man. I even talked to a coach last night that was talking about, what do you do in a long week from Friday to Friday? And being a former high school coach myself, you have to be careful that you don't work kids too hard, man. You've got to give them a couple light days. Or, you can't go practice 3 hours every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I think you've got to be careful with that. And I do think, might be a small thing, but I think Oak Grove playing yesterday may keep them sort of in the rhythm of playing, and that might benefit them. But I'm going to go with Oak Grove to advance here over Andalusia.
Yeah, I am too. Both of these teams last week were in pretty tightly contested games. You talked about Oak Grove being pushed to 3 games and winning that last game. Both the games they won were 7-5 and 5-3, and then Andalusia swept the series, but one game won 8-5 and one game 4-2. Andalusia, obviously led by Parker Adams, an uncommitted 24 outfielder in the middle of that order. I think he's got 4 or 5 home runs on the season. And then Oak Grove on the mound. They've got a couple really strong arms at the top, led by Nathan Winholtz. But I agree. I'm going to go Oak Grove as well. Oak Grove has really caught our attention as of late. They finished at number 10 in our 4A poll, correct?
That is correct. Yeah. Yes.
They just slid in at the top. Oak Grove's. That's right. Oak Grove didn't. They played game 1 on Friday. Got rained out. Okay, so
yeah.
Both of these teams swept. But I'm going Oak Grove as well. Just the pitch. I like the way that their pitching lines up. I think they pitch it just enough and get enough offense to take 2 out of 3 against Andalusia.
So we'll jump to the north. And, I told you earlier that there's 3 games I haven't picked. And, where my winners are, they're highlighted in yellow. Well, I've got my highlighter out for my next matchup because I haven't picked it yet. It's the first matchup in the north that we're going to take a look at. You've got Westminster Christian. Westminster Christian won Area 13. They finished the season ranked number 3 in our 4A poll. They currently have a record of 22-7. They will be on the road, and this series will begin on Thursday at 5 o'clock, and I plan on being there at least for that first game at 5. Westminster Christian will be on the road at Brooks. The Lions come in with the record of 14-11. They finished right outside of our top 10. Again, this will get started on Thursday at 5 o'clock. Both of these teams last week handled business. Brooks was able to defeat Hanceville by scores of 4-0 and 12-2. And Westminster Christian was able to sweep Cordova by scores of 3-2 and 3-0. There's a common denominator or a common factor in all those scores is that there wasn't many runs given up on either side. You look at Brooks, obviously they are, yes, Kevin, thank you. If we said that wrong, I said it. Yeah. Yeah. If we said that wrong, I apologize. They did sweep. Okay. That's okay. I'm sorry. I missed that. Neither one of these teams give up a lot of runs. Obviously, Brooks is headlined by Christian Chatterton, who will throw game 1. He usually does. An Auburn signee and a potential MLB draft pick. It's hard to score runs off him. You've got Seth Walton. You've got some other pieces there at Brooks. I know I've been to a Brooks playoff series before, and it's crazy. It is a great setting. Hope I can get to where I can get some video on Thursday when I get there. I'm going to have to get there early. You look at Westminster, again, they won Area 13. They have been nothing but solid and steady all year. And I said it last week on the podcast. I don't think there's something that Westminster does that just wows you. But they pitch, and they don't have 87, 88 type arms they send out on the mound. They pitch, they miss barrels, they force soft contact, they play solid defense, they hit just enough. And that hitting will be challenged this week, obviously in game 1 against Chatterton. This is one, and if you look here, here's the one where I don't have anybody highlighted. Here it is. And nobody highlighted in this matchup. So here we go. I'm getting out my highlighter as we speak. And I am going to go with Westminster Christian in 3 games. I'm going Westminster in 3 games. I think they're going to drop game 1, and then they're just a solid ball club. I like them to win games 2 and 3. We will see. You've been on the radar with the Brooks people. I may now be on the radar with the Brooks people.
I think I got the green light though.
Okay, gotcha.
But it don't matter because I'm picking Westminster Christian. Led by Sean Lipinskis. They're just solid. They've been inside the top 5 all year long. Brooks led by Chatterton and Seth Walton. Chatterton headed to Auburn. Walton headed to Calhoun. Both of those guys hit as well. They've got other players like Andrew Edwards, a few other guys as well up and down their order. I just like Westminster Christian. Like you said, nothing that really jumps out at you. They just do everything at an above average level, and just play a solid brand of baseball. And I'm going to go with Westminster Christian like you. Could be a very close series. Will definitely be one to monitor in the North.
You think it's a 3-game series?
I don't know.
Hmm.
We'll see. I'm going with Westminster Christian.
I came out and said Westminster in 3. I'm going to stick by that. Next matchup is another intriguing one, and a team that also like in 4A. You've got Haleyville. Haleyville won Area 12. They finished the season right outside of our top 10. They come in with a record of 17-9. They are on the road in Stevenson, Alabama, at Stevenson City Park, as they'll be playing the North Jackson Chiefs. North Jackson comes in with a record of 26-7. They finished runner-up in that area to the defending state champs, Etowah Blue Devils. North Jackson did finish the series ranked number 8 in our final poll. Let's see how they got here. Haleyville swept Hamilton, a matchup that we highlighted last week. Haleyville swept Hamilton by scores of 4-0 and 8-5. And then North Jackson took care of business as they defeated Jacksonville 10-1 and 12-9. You see, that's 22 runs put up by that North Jackson offense. I don't know, but I would highly suspect that Carson Smith probably threw game 1 last week. You know, I left Stevenson City Park when North Jackson lost to Etowah, and I thought, man, that's a good team. I know they just lost, but that's a good team. I think they can really bang the ball around the park a little bit. Carson Smith gives you a legitimate game 1 chance to win. The Wynn kid, the soft lefty that can really
Caden
Wynn, yeah, high pitchability there from the left side. I like North Jackson this week. I like them this week, especially at home. That's a different environment there. Those people take it serious. I'm going to stay with the Chiefs this week.
Me too. I picked against Haleyville last week, and it came back to bite me. So it's they probably want me to pick North Jackson, and I'm gonna pick North Jackson. You mentioned Carson Smith, Caden Wynn, and then you added other guys like Nick Jernigan, Brody Burnett. It's a really balanced 1 through 9 lineup. They're physical. They can, they've got different guys, different types of hitters in their lineup. They can, hit for extra bases. They can move the ball around, different ways that they can score runs and generate some offense. And I think that they pitch it just enough to let their offense kind of take over and score enough runs to where they can beat Haleyville. But Haleyville has really been playing well as of late. They won their area. They had beaten Russellville the last 2 weeks going into the season. They swept Hamilton, who is a solid club in 4A. Going to be a series of 2 pretty evenly matched teams, but ultimately I'm going to go with North Jackson as well.
The next one, man, we got number 6 versus number 7. Big time matchup. You've got the Corner Yellow Jackets. They are winners of Area 10. They come in with a record of 24-6. They finished the season ranked number 6. They will be at home. They'll be hosting the number 7 and 19-12 Etowah Blue Devils. Etowah, as we just mentioned, won Area 14. Again, 19-12. This is number 6 versus number 7. A perennial power in the Yellow Jackets and the defending state champs, and perennial power Etowah Blue Devils. This is obviously one to highlight. This series will get started on Thursday at 4:30. Another shame that this one has to happen so early. Etowah's got some toughness about them. Etowah expects to win. You've got Jameson's system at the front end of that rotation. You've got, St. Clair at the leadoff spot. You've got some other guys. You've obviously got Baylor Morrison, also doubles as a back-end arm for them, came in against North Jackson and was really good. I mentioned that last week. Again, they're on the road at Corner. Let's look at how these two teams got here. Etowah swept White Plains 11-1 and 12-1. Corner swept Madison County 11-1 and 9-1. So as you can see, both of these teams are similar to one another. Both of these teams are used to success. I may be wrong, but I think maybe they matched up last year in the playoffs.
Yeah, Etowah beat them.
Yeah. Etowah beat them, obviously, on their way to the state championship. But you look, Corner allowed 2 runs in 2 games. Etowah allowed 2 runs in 2 games. Man, this is a big-time matchup. It's one that I'm torn on. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I always side with pitching depth. And the pitching depth at Corner could be a difference maker. You know, I think they left the yard like 7 times in 2 games this past week. Offense is coming on. I don't expect 7-yard balls this week against Etowah's pitching. This was one that I was torn between because obviously we've been high on Etowah all year. We've talked about don't look at their record. They play anybody, anywhere. I'm going to go with Corner. It's at home. I like the pitching depth. Now, we talk about pitching depth. You've got Cannon. You've got
Brody Dunlap.
Yeah. And then obviously Brendan Connor has not thrown much this year. I think he's working his way back in where he can give them an inning or 2 here or there. That would just add to their talent on the mound. But I'm going to go Yellow Jackets.
Yeah, and even though, you know, Connor isn't throwing, he's still a big piece to what they do. He's an elite 2-way player, one of the top 2-way players in the state of Alabama. Can really bang the ball. I think he had a home run as well, and I think Brody Dunlap had 2 home runs. Eli Cannon had a home run as well. So those big 3 players, Connor, Dunlap, and Cannon, are a huge. They are as good as it gets at the 4A level. When you're talking about just the elite amount of talent, both Connor and Dunlap are headed to UAB. Cannon's headed to Wallace-Hansville. But they've got other players as well. It's not just them. Their catcher, Cole Raspberry, also headed to Wallace-Hansville as well. This looks like they have a chance to make a deep run. We talked about them over the last couple of years. Hasn't really panned out into deep playoff runs. This year, I think they're primed. If you can continue to work Brendan Connor back, but the 2 arms that they have now with Dunlap and Connor being able to shut down opposing offenses and then bang the ball around the yard. That's a tough matchup to go against, and they'll be challenged even more this week out of the gate with Etowah, with the guys that you talked about, Sissom, Damon Devine, Baylor Morrison, St. Clair in the leadoff spot,
Gaddis on the mound.
Yeah, Tracy Gaddis. So this is a talented matchup, but I agree. I'm going to go with the Yellow Jackets of Corner. Think that they're poised, they're positioned to make a deep playoff run this year in 4A. I'm going with Corner.
And then our last matchup in 4A, you've got Asheville. Asheville was the winners in Area 11. They come in with a record of 19-13. They finished the season right outside of our top 10. They will be on the road at Deschler. Deschler comes in with a record of 26-7. They won Area 15. This series will get started on Friday at 5 o'clock. How did these 2 teams get here? Deschler beat Priceville in 2 very entertaining games. I think it was 2-1 and 2-0. I know the first one was 2-1. I'm almost certain the second one was like 2-0.
Yeah.
It was 2 tight games. I do know that. And Asheville was pushed to 3 games by West Limestone. They won game 1, 6-5, lost game 2, 7-4, and then they pulled away. They really asserted themselves in game 3. Asheville won 15-5. This one will get started on Friday at 5 o'clock. Man, we've liked Deschler all year. Deschler, as you probably are aware, finished 9th, finished in the 9th spot in our final top 10. I like Deschler here. They're at home, that new ballpark. I know it's like their second year, that new ballpark. That's going to be a raucous environment. Asheville has done a lot this year, had a great season, but I just think too much Deschler this week. I like them to advance to the Elite 8.
Yeah, Deschler had a sneaky matchup out of the gate in Priceville, and we knew that it would be a tough series, and they were able to find a way to win both of those games, which credit to them, led by Price Thornton, Garrett Reed, a couple of those guys. And I picked against Asheville last week. I was sleeping on them, but I'm gonna go with Deschler this week as well. I think too much firepower both at the plate and on the mound for Deschler. I like them to advance to the Elite 8 as well.
And that'll get us right into 5A, and boom, right off the bat, we've got a big-time matchup. You've got Shelby County. Shelby County finished right outside of our top 10. Maybe could have been ranked, let's be honest with you. They come in with a record of 22-9. They're the Area 8 winners.
Coach Hamrick was begging to be ranked.
You know better than that. They come in at 22-9. They sit right outside of our top 10. They won Area 8. They will be on the road at Area 2 runner-up Mobile Christian. Mobile Christian finished runner-up to St. Paul's. Mobile Christian currently sits at, I believe it's 18-10. I believe it's somewhere in there somewhere in that neighborhood. They finished the season ranked number 5. So you've got number 5 hosting a team that very well has reason to think they could have been ranked inside the top 10 at the end. Shelby County was ranked for most of the season. This one will get started on Thursday at 5:00. Man, this is it may not be top 10 matchup, but this is one to keep an eye on. Shelby County beat a quality Rehoboth team last week by scores of 5-3 and 14-1. We know the offensive firepower of Mobile Christian. They also beat a quality team in Demopolis. They won 9-1 and 16-8. If you like offense, this is the matchup to be at. Man, this is this has the capabilities to score. This one has the capability to have a lot of runs scored in this one, especially at that ballpark at Mobile Christian. The ball really flies out of there pretty well. I do think we see 2 or 3 high-scoring games. I'm going upset. I can't believe I'm picking against Mobile Christian because they're loaded with talent. Gadsden, Rivers, Bennett, you keep going on, Weinshinker, Brown, you can go on and on and on. I'm going Shelby County. I think something is going on at Shelby County. They're rolling. I think they're rolling. I think they're hot at the right time. I'm going to go upset. I'm going to go Shelby County.
Yeah, how about the week for Gannon Farr last week? I think he had 12 RBIs.
8 for 12 or something like that.
Had a big week. Him and Cooper Pennington, Sam Carter, a bunch of other guys for Shelby County getting it done.
Micah Morris.
Yeah, Micah Morris. They've got they've talent 1 through 9. They can pitch it. They can defend. And then Mobile Christian, sort of their calling card is their offense. You mentioned it. Bryce Rivers, I think, is hitting like 450.
451. Yep.
451. Damian Gatson was really impressive when we saw him. I'm going to go with the offense, even though Shelby County has shown the ability to go down to the Gulf Shores area, to the Mobile area, and win like they did last year when they went down to Gulf Shores and took 2 out of 3 against Gulf Shores. I'm going to go with Mobile Christian. I think too much offense here. I think they find a way to pitch it just enough and win a series that I could very well see go in 3 games.
Speaking of Gulf Shores, that's our next matchup. Gulf Shores finished the season ranked number 3 in our last 5A poll. They have a record of 26-10. They are on the road this week at Tallahassee. I think are you going to be there? No.
Yeah, I'm trying to be there.
I think you're going to be there at Tallahassee. Tallahassee, they were the Area 4 winners. They sit at 18-7 right now. They finished the season ranked right outside of our top 10. This series will get started on Friday at 4:00. How did they get here? Let's take a look. Tallahassee defeated Marbury, a talented Marbury team. I'm not sure the scores, but Tallahassee won games 1-3. Yes, Marbury won the second game. Tallahassee was able to win 2 of 3 there. Gulf Shores swept Marbury by scores of 8-3 and 2-0. Gulf Shores is a talented team. Make no mistake about it. We've had them ranked inside the top 5 all year. As we talked about, they finished ranked number 3 in the state in 5A. I'm going to stay with sort of my mojo. I like another road team to go on the road. I like the Dolphins this week. Again, just their body of work all year. They beat some really good teams. I like them to continue to advance. Give me Gulf Shores to make it to the Elite 8.
Yeah, I like the Dolphins as well, led by Connor Gear. They've got a bunch of seniors. Both the Stevens brothers, Judd Harris. Mac Anderson is a right-handed pitcher, outfielder going to Houston. Judd Harris is a freshman outfielder. Alex King. They've got a bunch of upperclassmen really getting it done. And then you look at Tallahassee, Chase Chumley. I think he's hitting in the leadoff spot. Brew Milner is a freshman I'm excited to see, who just signed up for the Yellowhammer State games.
Looking forward to seeing him behind the dish. Yep.
Yeah. But ultimately, I think I like Connor Gear on the mound. Just you know what you're going to get when you trot him out to take the ball, whether it's in game 1 or 2. And then I like the Dolphins finding a way to win one of the other 2 games. I'm going to go with Gulf Shores as well.
And that'll move us right along to another intriguing matchup. Man, you've got Valley. Valley finished Valley won Area 6. My apologies. They finished right outside the top 10. We've already been told someone's waiting for this prediction. Valley finished right outside of our top 10. They come in with an impressive record of 22-4. Again, Area 6 winners. They are traveling to the Mobile area to take on 4th ranked and Area 2 winners, St. Paul's Episcopal. St. Paul's Episcopal has a record of 22-10. This series will get started on Friday at 4:00 with the if necessary game at noon on Saturday. Man, this is an intriguing matchup. Obviously, we have talked all year about how much we like that talent at St. Paul's, both on the mound, led by Bradley Irish, and then you've got all those position players that you might meant. We can go on Stowers and we keep going on with those guys. Johnston at shortstop. You'll probably mention some of those guys. That's a deep, talented team. Valley, I think they won their first area championship in a long time. Obviously, they're headlined, and he gets a lot of notoriety. Jackson Sanders, left-handed arm. He's tough for anybody to beat. He's also a center fielder, hits for them. There's some other pieces that you may mention. And I failed to mention this. St. Paul's swept Greenville 12-2 and 10-0. Valley beat Alberta 8-7 and 23-2. So they really, that was impressive in the second game. Obviously, it's a difficult task to beat Jackson Sanders. I don't know if this is going to happen in 2 or 3. This was one I went back and forth on. I do think it will be a 3-game series. I think there's just too much depth on that St. Paul's Episcopal roster. I'm going to go with St. Paul's. Again, I think they are a bona fide contender to make a deep run and possibly take home the blue map. So give me the Saints.
Yeah, you talked about a bunch of the other of those players for St. Paul's. You mentioned Stowers and Johnston. You add in Edward McLeod, Cade Horton, Brooks McDonald, Taylor Odell. Just one of the more balanced lineups in 5A and maybe even the state. Bradley Irish has really assumed that ace role on the mound as well, and they've gotten some other contributions on the mound from other guys too. You talked about Valley, obviously led by Jackson Sanders. I saw him earlier this spring, was up to 94 with the frisbee of a slider, and he also had 2 doubles in game 2, had 3 hits, 2 doubles, 3 RBIs, and a walk in game 2 offensively. Moncrief, their second baseman, also had 3 RBIs in their second game. Monteith, their center fielder in the leadoff spot, had 2 hits as well. So starting to see it well offensively, and you combine Sanders on the mound. This will be a difficult matchup. Will be a very good, very intriguing matchup down in the Mobile area. But ultimately, I'm going to side with St. Paul's. Could definitely see it going 3 games. But ultimately, I like the Saints to be able to get it done and advance to the Elite Eight.
Our last matchup in the South, you've got Headland, the Rams. They were Area 3 runner-up. They currently sit at 16-11. They will be traveling to the defending state champs, Hopeville. They'll be on the road. This series will get started on Thursday at 5 o'clock. Hopeville currently sits at 20-12. Hopeville finished number 9. This is another top 10 matchup. Hopeville finished number 9 in our final top 10, while Headland snuck in. They had been ranked, fell out. They snuck back in at number 10. So you got number 9 versus number 10. Again, this matchup will be at Hopeville. Let's take a look at how they got here. Hopeville swept impressively. Impressive sweep from Hopeville, winning 14-4 and 11-0 over Elmore County. That was a series that we highlighted that we thought might be a little closer than that. Well, Hopeville, showed their dominance. Headland, on the other hand, swept Central of Clay County. They won by scores of 5-4 and 15-2. Two quality programs going at it. This one will be a lot of fun. It's tough to win at Hopewell. Make no mistake about it. If there's anybody that can do it, it might be Headland. I mean, that's a talented group. You got the Shelley brothers, among others. This is another one that could really be interesting. But I think Hopeful is rolling right now. I think Hopeful has hit their stride. I think it wouldn't be a surprise to see them make another deep run. Wouldn't be a surprise to see them finish up in Oxford and Jacksonville because of that. And they are at home. I like them. And again, we were wrong last week. We thought that was going to be a really, really competitive series at Elmore County. I think this is going to be a competitive series, but give me the Bulldogs to advance.
I agree too. And I mentioned last week, kind of the same season that Hopeful had last year, kind of was 500 down the stretch, really turned it on at the end of the season. And here they are in the Sweet 16 and ultimately went on to win the 5A state championship. And looks like they could very well be back on that path once again. They're rolling. We thought their series against Elmore County had a chance to be a really good one. Elmore County beat them earlier in the regular season. They were able to turn around and beat them 14-0 and 11-0. Just speaks to how hot Hopeful is right now. But so is Headland as well. But ultimately, I'm siding with the Bulldogs. You look at Hopeful; they are obviously led by Dre Barrett, Marcus Broderick's another middle of the order for them, hitter for them, Braxton Potts, and then you look obviously with Headland, the Shelley brothers. Having Wyatt back is huge for them. Another key piece to the middle of their order. And his other brother Wade hitting at the top of the order. They also have Evan Taylor, Trey Scott, bunch of other guys. This will be a very talented series, but I'm going to go with the Bulldogs here. A rematch from last year where Hopeful was able to win that series. And Hopeful is a very tough place to win. They have such a home field advantage, and that's a big reason why I'm going with the Bulldogs as well.
And jumping to the north, you've got our first matchup, man. Two quality clubs. This is going to be an interesting series in Madison at Madison Academy. You have the Mustangs. They have a record of 22-13. They won Area 16, and they finished right outside of our top 10. They will be hosting the second-ranked Sardis Lions. Sardis won Area 13. They currently sit at 19-11. But again, kudos to both of these teams. And I'm going to tell you, both of these coaching staffs, they schedule in preparation for the state playoffs. Neither Sardis nor Madison Academy has a record like 27-6. Neither one of these teams are scared. Neither one of these coaching staffs are scared to go out and play the best of the best. And you know what? That's why they're into the second weekend of the season here. It's just unfortunate they're going to match up with each other. All right. Last week, let's take a look at number 2 Sardis. Sardis defeated Moody very convincingly, 18-3 and 11-0. Madison Academy did the same. They swept Fairview by scores of 4-0 and 9-3. This one is going to have immense talent across the board here at Madison Academy. You've got T. Foster, you've got Miles Johnson, you've got Shane Duke, you've got Mac Meadows. I know there's guys I'm leaving. You've got Keaton Watson. Again, just throwing some names out there. Jack Doyle on the mound. You go to Sardis, you've got Russell Wiggs, you've got Blaze Gerhardt, the Walters kid behind the plate, Trey Thornton, our man,
Landon
Carroll. That's right.
Carson Gilliland,
kid that just committed. I think he hit like 2 home runs last week, 3 home runs. Man, this is a big time matchup. It is at Madison Academy. And I got in trouble for this a few years ago, but I've got to go with Sardis again. I think, make no mistake about it, I don't want to label someone the favorite in a classification, but among 3 or 4 different favorites, Sardis is absolutely in that class.
Yeah,
I've got to go with Sardis. I'm impressed with them. They're good. Madison Academy is really good as well. This is going to be a competitive series without a doubt. I'm not trying to paint a picture that this is all Sardis. It's not, but I like Sardis to take advantage to move on.
You may have to stand on Sardis' side.
Whoa.
I'm going Sardis as well. They're built to make a run. Gearhart, you saw him up to 92. I've seen him up to 90. He can also bang the ball around the yard, as well as Carson Gilliland. Landon Carroll certainly is a excellent leadoff hitter. Sets the tone at the top of the order. They are not I don't want to label them a powerhouse, but they are a really talented team 1 through 9. Man, there are no easy outs. Their pitching stacks up well. I thought Moody would be a solid, and they are a solid team, but the way that Sardis was able to handle their business in the first round really stood out to me. I'm going to go with the Lions as well. Just that offensive firepower, I think, proves to be too much, and I think too much Sardis here in the end over Madison Academy.
Our next 5A matchup, you've got Alexandria, the Valley Cubs, our number 1 ranked team in 5A. Man, you look what could happen next. Our number 1 ranked team in 5A, they come in with a record of 24-9. They won Area 12. They will be on the road at Lawrence County. Lawrence County comes in with a record of 18-18. They finished runner-up in Area 14 to Russellville, and they did defeat Russellville once in area play. That tells you how good Lawrence County is. So you've got both of those teams from Area 14 still alive. This series will get cranked up on Thursday at 5. I forget if I told you, but Sardis and Madison Academy will also start on Thursday at 5 o'clock as well. Let's take a look. Alexandria, as dominant as there was last week across any classification, they defeated Douglas by scores of 14-0 and 14-0. Our man Trip Patterson did throw a perfect game. Lawrence County, man, and you know what, Lawrence County, kudos to you. You proved me wrong. I picked John Carroll Catholic. I believe you did as well, Austin.
Yeah.
An impressive first-round win by Lawrence County. They took 2 of 3 from John Carroll Catholic. They won game 1, 9-5, lost game 2, 12-9, and then was able to win the deciding game 3 by a score of 7-3. And again, they will be hosting Alexandria this week. I think you know where I'm going. I'm going to Valley Cubs. Again, Lawrence County has beat some good teams. John Carroll Catholic last week gave Russellville all they wanted in the area, in their area playoffs or area series, excuse me. But man, Alexandria is complete. And, we've talked about that rotation. Just mentioned Trip Patterson, Andrew Allen, Dre Good, Bray Good. Yeah. Again, there's thousands of players, and we're into hour 2 hours and 30 minutes right now. So please forgive me. But I'm going Alexandria. I mentioned Sardis is one of those 3 or 4 teams that can do it, as can Alexandria. Give me the Valley Cubs to go on the road and get a series win.
Yeah, I'm taking Alexandria as well. You talked about their pitching staff. They can also swing it as well. You take a guys like Samuel Henniger, Evan Snow, Nick Thompson. That I know that there are a bunch of other
the catcher, the catcher,
Aiden Bruner. Yeah, they're balanced offensively as well. They are a pretty well-rounded team, about like Sardis, and that could be a very exciting matchup if it happens. If both teams take care of business this week, which they've got a tough task in front of them, but we'll be interested to see how it shapes out. But I'm going to go with the Valley Cubs here to go on the road. I like their pitching staff. They're battle tested. They played some really good teams all year long. And I think that they're another one of those teams, like you said, that have a chance to make it all the way in Class 5A this year.
Moving on, this matchup will get started on Friday at 4:30. The if necessary game would be Saturday at 2. You've got Russellville, the Golden Tigers, winners of Area 14. They currently sit at 25-9. They finished ranked 6th in our last poll. They're going to be on the road at the Green Wave of Leeds. Leeds comes in with a record of 19-17. They had an impressive win last week, defeating Boaz, the Pirates. That was a team that I saw, and I was impressed with Boaz. And you know what? I think Leeds is in that same category of teams to be on the lookout for in the state playoffs. And they proved that last week. I will listen. Let me tell the people of Leeds, I was wrong. I picked Boaz. Congratulations on a big series win. You did you? You picked Leeds, right?
Yeah, I'm a Green Wave. I'm with the Green Wave.
That's right. You're a Green Wave, no doubt about it. This one will be at Leeds. So Russellville will be on the road. This one's, man, I think this one could be really entertaining. I really do. How did they get here? Man, Russellville handled business. They beat Pleasant Grove 12-2 and 16-0. They didn't sleep on Pleasant Grove. They took care of business there. Leeds, as we mentioned, they defeated Boaz. It was in 3 games. They won game 1 3-1, lost game 2 4-2. And then I'm not sure of game 3. I'm not sure of the score there, but Leeds was able to defeat Boaz in game 3. Again, this one will be at Leeds. Man, I saw Russellville about 3 weeks ago, and they were in the midst of an 11-game win streak, and I think they've dropped 1 or 2 games here or there since then. But it's Russellville. It's an expectation. It's what the town of Russellville gets behind this team. And I know Leeds is the same way. And I'm sure that all the people headed to Russellville will stop at Buc-ee's there in Leeds on the way before they get there. They got to. Absolutely. You got to. This is one I went back and forth on because I haven't seen Leeds. But their 3-game series win over Boaz tells me a lot about them. I'm going to go with tradition. Give me the Golden Tigers to win a tough series at Leeds this week.
I'm going Russellville as well. Russellville seems like a team that's really been trending up as of late. You talked about it. We're on an 11-game winning streak up until the last week of the regular season, and took care of business in the first round. I know Leeds has a really good offense as well, led by Connor Nelson. I think he's getting close to double-digit home runs on the season. So he's certainly a big threat in that offense, and they've got other players as well. I know they've got two JUCO arms on the mound. So this should be a pretty evenly matched series, and it'd be hard to. It's hard. I bet it's hard to go to Leeds on the road. Be a pretty evenly matched series, like I mentioned. But Russellville, just the tradition that they have, the winning that's in their DNA, hard to go against them in the playoffs, especially in a second-round matchup. I'm going to go with Russellville as well. I'm going to go with them to advance to the Elite Eight.
Before we get to the next one, let me go ahead and just tell you I'm uncomfortable with this pick. This is an intriguing series to look at. Our last one in 5A, you've got Springville. Springville sits at 25-9. They won Area 11. They finished the season ranked number 7 in our top 10. As I mentioned, they are on the road at south side of Gadsden, where I just went through south side, going to Talladega and coming back home. Just went through south side. They will be on the road, as I said, at south side of Gadsden. Southside has a record of 20-16. This series will get started on Friday at Friday at 5:00. Southside was the runner-up in Area 12, but that runner-up was to Alexandria. And we just talked about how impressed we were with Alexandria. How did these two teams get here? Southside was able to go on the road and defeat Arab in a best 2 out of 3 series. I'm not sure of the scores. I think they won game 1, dropped game 2, and then won game 3 by a score of 5-4. I think that's it. I may be wrong. Springville swept Ardmore, a team that finished runner-up to Madison Academy in their area. Springville won 2-1 and 4-0. And we have talked about Springville's arms for the last 3 or 4 weeks. And you see they gave up one run over 2 games. Did score a ton of runs as well, but Ardmore's pitching staff had a lot to do with that. I know they've got a little lefty that can really pitch at Ardmore. Man, this is another one. I already told you, I don't feel comfortable going either way here. But, when it comes down to it, I got to make a pick. What have I said before? If there's a question, I'm going pitching. Give me Springville again on the road to beat Southside Gadsden. This one has a chance to go 3 games.
I like Springville as well. You got to like your chances when Carter Samuelson has been an ace for that pitching staff, and their lineup has handled business as well. Just did enough last week to be able to sweep Ardmore, winning 2-1 and 4-0. Their pitching has really, really taken the forefront throughout the back half of the season, being ranked inside the top 10 for the majority of the spring. Southside Gadsden, a big win last week over Arab. Corbin Driscoll, anchoring the middle of that lineup, and they've got other players as well. This is like you said, a very intriguing matchup, pretty evenly matched series. I'm going to go Springville as well. They've, just the pitching that they have on the mound. You have to like what you get when you put Carter Samuelson out on the mound. I think he's ticking up to 90 miles per hour and has consistently built on his outings, having strong outing after strong outing. I'm going to go with Springville. Could definitely see this going 3 games, but I'm going to go with Springville as well.
So that'll get us straight into 6A. And let me tell you, man, we've talked about the depth of 6A this year. And my picks, and even last week on the podcast, if people remember, I talked about the intriguing games in the South. And I said that I didn't think the games in the North were as intriguing. And in my opinion, it turned out like I talked about. In my picks in the South, there were 8 matchups, and I lost 4 of them. In the North, I won all 8 of them. So there were some intriguing matchups in the South. I think there's intriguing matchups up and down in 6A this week. Our first one, man, we talk about some teams that really sent, I don't want to use the word shockwaves, but, teams that really had really impressive wins. You got to start with Baldwin County, man. Baldwin County went on the road to Helena, a team that we talked about that was a team that could win it all. Baldwin County, they went on the road and defeated Helena, our number 4 ranked team. Baldwin County currently sits at 24-9. They sit right outside the top 10 receiving votes. But I'll get to that in just a minute. They will be hosting Hueytown, the Golden Gophers. They sit at 22-16, and they finished right outside of our top 10 as well in 6A. Let's talk about these 2 teams. Obviously, we've already mentioned the Baldwin County sweep of Helena, an impressive Helena team. And again, not trying to sound like a know-it-all, but last week we mentioned and we talked about that Helena, not to overlook them, and I'm sure they didn't. I mean, Baldwin County's got some players, and they went on the road and swept that series. Hueytown, they took 2 of 3 from Stanhope Elmore. They won game 1 by a score of 10-3, lost game 2 3-0, and then defeated Stanhope Elmore in that deciding 3rd game 5-1.
Load that bus, Coach Chandler.
Man, you
South, baby.
You ruined my what I was going to say. This will get started on Friday at 5:00. I have already talked to Coach Chandler this morning through text. And so I want to echo what Austin said. Get that bus ready, load it up, and drive it south, Coach. You've already been down there once. So you probably know the way down there. But man, I think these are 2 teams that are similar. These are 2 teams that are hard-nosed, 2 teams that not going to back down, 2 teams that'll compete to the last pitch. I've got to give some, Hueytown's been there, and Coach Chandler has just continued the tradition of Hueytown Golden Gopher baseball after the unfortunate passing of Coach Patterson. Coach Chandler has just kept it rolling. I mean, but man, Coach Higginbotham at Baldwin County, that's a completely different looking team than 2 years ago. I'm going to tell you, we had them in our South Alabama showdown. Impressive. We saw them in 2 games. This is an interesting series. And, I don't want to make either one of them mad. They're not going to be mad at me. They probably like when I pick against them. But I'm going to ride the hot hand. I'm going to ride the home team here. I'm going to go Baldwin County.
Me too.
Give me Baldwin County. Are you?
Me too.
Oh, man. Coach Chandler, man, don't be mad at us.
Baldwin County, man. When you look at it, I mean, there
arms,
a lot of seniors. Quincy Walters, Eli Woody, anchoring that order. The two JUCO, two arms, one going up Montevallo, Landon Walker. After blanking on the other one, but they have really seemed to turn the corner this year. Huge win last week. I think they were up at one point like 10-3 over Helena in the first game, and then Helena kind of pulled in late. And then the last game, second game, they were trailing, I think, by 2 or 3 runs going to the 7th, and they were able to get to score 3 or 4 runs to take the lead and walk it off. So exciting series for Baldwin County. And then you look at Hueytown, Baker Davis, Cole Payne, the Bradbury brothers. Just a tough, gritty lineup. But I agree. I'm going to go with Baldwin County as well. Just something about them seems to be clicking as of late. But a very evenly matched series. 2 teams that are well coached, that get after it. I'm going to go with the home team as well. I'm going with Baldwin County.
Yeah, and you talk about 2 evenly matched teams, man. Look at our next matchup. Pike Road. Pike Road will be on the road this week. They are the 4A area winners. They come in with a record of 24-9. They sit right outside of our final top 10 in 6A. They will be on the road at Hillcrest, Tuscaloosa. Hillcrest, Tuscaloosa finished right outside of our top 10 as well. They have a record of 24-10. And here's another situation where Hillcrest made a loud statement last week on the road at number 5, Faith Academy. And again, much like Helena, that was a team that we penciled as a chance to win it all. But also on the other side of that, we said last week, here's Hillcrest, Tuscaloosa. Here's where they're used to being. Here's where they start playing like they're capable of. And we mentioned it was a tough task going to Faith Academy. I mean, make no mistake about it. But we called for a competitive series. I don't think we called for a Hillcrest sweep. Not to say that Hillcrest couldn't win it, but I don't think we called for a Hillcrest sweep. I'm telling you, it's just Hillcrest. It's every single year. And what a win last week at Faith Academy. They're hot. I'm going to ride the hot hand. I'm going to go with the home team. No offense to Pike Road. I mean, I guess I need to, I don't want that to be disrespectful to Pike Road. Pike Road beats McAdory 2-0 and 11-1. Hillcrest beats Faith Academy 6-5, I believe, and 12-2. You go back, I've already picked Hillcrest, but you go back, you look at Pike Road. I mean, Pike Road gave up 1 run in 2 games to a McAdory offense that you and I saw that can really bang the ball around the park, especially the top end of their order. So I'm going to go Hillcrest, but again, Pike Road, it's going to be competitive.
Yeah, I'm going Hillcrest as well, led by Evan Williams and Jackson Henderson, both players signed to go play JUCO, and it just seems like the same that every year in the playoffs we're back here the same, picking against them, and they're proving us wrong. But this time we're picking them. Pike Road, led by Drew Britton on the mound. You've got Hudson Franks, a few other guys. They're deep. Herbert Reyes has been a solid newcomer for them as well, a sophomore shortstop, infielder. They've got other pieces as well up and down their lineup. Jack Revis, bunch of other guys. They're a talented lineup. 2 evenly matched teams. I'm going to ride the hot hand as well. I think Hillcrest Tuscaloosa has really been clicking, really been playing good baseball as of late. They're at home this week. Give me Hillcrest in this matchup.
And so now we get Spanish Fort and Saraland again.
I liked Coach Boutwell's quote. I don't know if you saw it. He said, "We know what we have this week."
We know what we got this week. Yes. I mean, that series last year at Spanish Fort was, we weren't there, but we followed it and saw highlights and saw clips. Man, that looked impressive. And so we do it again this year. It's a top 10 matchup. You've got the Toros of Spanish Fort. They won Area 2. They come in with a record of 23-10. They finished the season ranked number 9 in our final poll. They are at the Spartans of Saraland at that beautiful complex there in Saraland, Alabama. Saraland comes in with a record of 26-8. They finished ranked number 8 in our final top 10 poll. This series will get started on Friday at 5 o'clock. And you know what? Coach Boutwell, Coach Walker, both of these guys do an exceptional job. These are two established programs across the state. When you think of high school baseball, you know, it's hard to pick a winner here. You know, and let me be the first to say, last week I picked against Saraland. You didn't. You took Saraland. I took Northridge, trying to ride the hot hand. That series lived up to its billing, without a doubt. You were there, you know, and I was over at ACA. But this is, man, this is going to be a war. I mean, this is going to be a battle, much like it was last year. I mean, we've already talked about it. Two highly respected coaches, two phenomenal programs, two teams with talent across the board. Man, this would be a good one to be at. I'm not going to be able to be there. I guess I got to make it. Give me the Spartans. Give me the Spartans at home. Give me Saraland. I'm going to go with Saraland. I just got a little hunch about them. They scuffled early a little bit. Maybe they're getting it right.
You had them. You said you thought they were you weren't as high on them coming into the playoffs.
You're right, I wasn't. But going on the road and beating a hot Northridge team, man, I'm going with them. I've completely swapped gears in 1 week, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kudos to Saraland, because that series at Northridge, man, they had that first game won. They were up 1 run going to the last. No, they were up 1 run going to the last inning. You get an infield single, a walk. You put that guy on. They get a base hit, and then you walk the winning run home to lose that game. And then you get down 1-0 early, and it's getting into the 5th inning. You're down to your last 9 outs. Saraland was able to muster something together and kind of poured it on, added some insurance late, and then ended up winning that game 3. So, you know, they fought through adversity. They've had their backs against the wall as much as anybody so far in the first round. They're battle tested. And the home team won in this series last week. I'm going with the home team won in this series last year. I'm going with the home team in this series this year. I'm going with Saraland, led by Evan Hilliard, Brooks Womble, Sante McWilliams, Cameron Lafitte, Fuller Chisholm. You look at Spanish Fort with Jack Hawley, John Henry Winstead, Ethan Kick, they've Lakeland Ray, Nemo Hickson, Newton Gardner. These are two, again, similarly talented teams, similar clubs. I think they're pretty good rivals. This is going to be an intense series, one that we wish that we were at, but we're both going to side with the Spartans here in this matchup.
Our last matchup in the South, you've got Wetumpka. They will be on the road this week. Wetumpka comes in with a record of 22-13. They sit right outside of our top 10. They will be on the road this week at Benjamin Russell, who also sits right outside of our top 10. They come in with a record of 17-10. I think you've got two very similar teams here. This series will get started on Friday at 4:30. How did these two teams get here? Benjamin Russell. I was impressed with this because, again, Benjamin Russell, I picked against you last week.
Me too.
All right. Yeah, we both did. We went with Briarwood. Benjamin Russell goes on the road and beats a quality Briarwood Christian team by scores of 7-6 and 6-0. While Wetumpka handled business at home against Brookwood, they won by scores of 6-2 and 6-0. Man, I think these are two teams that get after it, two teams that are scrappy, two teams that are well coached. We mentioned that in the previous matchup with Saraland and Spanish Fort as well. I do. I think these are similar teams. They're both, fundamentally sound. I'm gonna go, Coach Dizzy. Don't get mad at me, man. I'm gonna go with Benjamin Russell, and I'm going with Benjamin Russell for one reason. I've said this several times already. I love that pitching staff. I think that might be the difference maker this week. I think these two clubs are similar on offense. I like what Benjamin Russell has on the mound. I'm going to go with them at home. Coach Dismukes, I wish you the best, man. And if you win, I'll be the first to tell you I was wrong. But I'm going to go with Benjamin Russell in this matchup.
I'm going to roll with Coach Dizzy. I'm going with Wetumpka. Give me the Indians. But it's not going to be easy on the road this week playing at Benjamin Russell. That Sportsplex up in Alex City. Wetumpka led by Caden Woldridge, Jacob Smith, who just committed to Central Alabama, Asher Nobles. They've got other players as well on their roster, other talented players on the roster as well. And then you look at Benjamin Russell with Gabe Bitton on the mound, Jackson Hay, Chance Lumpkin, talented roster as well. Two pretty evenly matched teams. Going to be a tough matchup on the road, but I'm going to go with the Indians here in a very, very tightly contested series. So we'll split on this matchup. You'll go Ben Russell. I'll go with Wetumpka.
And we jump to the north. And this is one time that we can both honestly say, both of us can say, that both Oxford and Buckhorn, they're going to have there's going to be an increase in talent. It's going to the team they're going to play this week's much better than the team they played last week. No disrespect. You've got, as we mentioned, you've got Oxford. They come in with a 27-9 record. They finished the season ranked number 2, and they were top 2 all year long, the defending 6A state champs. Obviously, a team that can win it all. They will be on the road in Newmarket, Alabama, as they travel to Buckhorn High School. They'll be playing the Bucks. Buckhorn comes in with a record of 20-12. This series will get started at Friday at 5. This may be a series that I'm at. I still have not yet determined my Friday schedule as of yet. This is one of those games that I might be at. Buckhorn finished the year right outside the top 10. Again, like I said, they'll be hosting. And here's what happened last week. Buckhorn defeated Huffman by scores of 13-0 and 12-0. Oxford defeated Parker by scores of 17-0 and 17-0. So both of these teams got a little bit of a tune-up last week, I guess you can say, and now the real work begins. Man, I'm telling you, I've already seen, and I live about 5 miles from Buckhorn High School, and I've already seen some signs up about get out, support your Bucks, wear white. I've already seen it all over. The Buck faithful will be waiting on the Oxford Yellow Jackets this Friday. Buckhorn has just gone about their business this year. New coach. They are fundamentally solid. It's a lot like Westminster Christian in 4A. Buckhorn does everything solid. They piece together innings on the mound, led by Josh Henson, Kyler Campbell, some other guys. I think kid's name is Oltg or something. It's a weird last name. Yeah. Has really pitched well for them this year. They've got, Jack Roop. I was going to say Dylan Roop. Yeah, Jack Roop, left-handed hitter, hitting out the leadoff spot there. That's a really good team. It's going to be a raucous environment at Buckhorn in the metropolis of Newmarket. But man, listen, it's no secret that Oxford's a team that can go back to back. That firepower they have, I'm not going to go into all the players. We've talked about them. I'm sure you'll mention them. In a close series, I'm going to go with Oxford Yellow Jackets. And I was speaking to someone from Oxford and talking about, I like your chances going to Buckhorn. And you know what that person told me? You said the same thing 2 years ago when we went to Hazel Green. So, Oxford's trying to stay away from deja vu coming up here. And Buckhorn's not going to be the least bit intimidated. They're going to get after them. But I just think it's too much Oxford.
Yeah, what was that series 2 years ago when Hartselle was making their run? They played Buckhorn. They had a huge crowd at Buckhorn.
I was there then too. Yeah.
Could possibly be the same this week against Oxford. But you talked about the players for Buckhorn. You look at Oxford, led by Carter Johnson, Nick Richardson, Forrest Heacock, Hudson Gilman, Rocco and Reed Maniscalco, R.J. Brooks, Todd Gann, Cannon Whitman. RJ Brooks on the mound throwing game one has been really effective. So really deep lineup who can really swing it, can beat you in a variety of ways. Going to be a highly competitive series, but I'm going with the Yellow Jackets as well to make it to the Elite Eight. I picked St. James. He picked Opp.
Yeah, we just had a question. Yeah. David took Opp. Austin took St. James. Harper, is that good? Or which one? Who are you with, Harper? St. James or Opp? We'll bump into our next game in 6A. You've got number 3 and 27-6, the Spartans of Mountain Brook. They won Area 9. They will be on the road at 12. The Area 12 winners, Mortimer Jordan. Mortimer Jordan comes in with a record of 20-15. This series will get started there on Friday at 4:30. Last week, Mortimer Jordan took care of business against Columbia. It's something that we, all felt certain would happen. Mortimer Jordan defeated Columbia 17-0 and 15-0. We also pegged that Mountain Brook Muscle Shoals series as one to keep an eye on, and it turned out to be just that way. We were there for game 1 before we both headed to Tuscaloosa on Friday to catch the games we went to. Muscle Shoals won game 1 by a score of 9-5 on Friday. Mountain Brook, with Caleb Barnett on the mound in game 2, returned the favor and won 10-3, which set up a game 3 on Saturday, which Mountain Brook was able to defend, which Mountain Brook was able to win 9-6. There's a lot of offensive firepower in that Mountain Brook Spartan lineup as well. I don't know if I mentioned this. I may have already, but this one will get started on Friday at 4:30. The interesting thing here is these two teams played last week, I think maybe last Monday, and Mortimer Jordan beat them like 7-3 or something, 8-3. It was something 9-3, somewhere around there. I'll tell you, I don't think you put much stock in that score, not to discredit Mortimer Jordan. I went and looked at the box score. They threw a ton. It's just what everybody does when you're preparing for state playoffs. You get guys live at bats. You throw as many live arms as you can to get some work, and it's just a tune-up. Man, Mortimer Jordan could very well win this series, but I'm going with the Spartans. We saw them. We like that. We like that offensive firepower they have. I'm going to go with the Mountain Brook Spartans to roll into the Elite Eight with a series win over Mortimer Jordan.
Yeah, I like Mountain Brook as well. Led by, Caleb Barnett. You talked about it. John Robichaux, their leadoff hitter going to Snead State. Hunter Keller. Paul Barnett, little freshman, had multiple hits in the games that we saw.
Luke Hauser.
Yep, Luke Hauser. And I don't know if you saw in game 3, did you see Caleb Barnett's stat line?
I did, yes.
4 with 4 intentional. I can't blame Coach Beck, man. He could hit. Then you look at Mortimer Jordan, led by guys like Coleman Maldonado, Garrett Ames on the mound. You've got Tucker Rickman as well, who's headed to Wallace Hansville. They've got talent as well. I'm going to side. I agree with you. I don't buy too much stock in that game last week. Just a little tune-up, getting some people some live at-bats. Definitely expect it to be a close series, just like last week with Mountain Brook and Muscle Shoals, but I like the Spartans here as well. They're our number 3 ranked team. They're inching closer to that 30-win mark. I like the Spartans here.
Our next one, this is an intriguing one.
Yep. The
number 1 ranked Hartselle Tigers. They are winners of Area 14. They currently sit at 26-7. As I said, they are our number 1 team in 6A. They are on the road at Pell City. Pell City is the 13 runner-up to Oxford. Obviously, they finished runner-up, but that was to Oxford. Pell City comes in with a record of 18-10. This series will get started on Friday at 5 o'clock. Pell City dominated Minor last week. They won 19-0 and 10-0. That was something that we expected. Hartselle beat a quality Homewood team 6-2 and 3-0. Two really competitive games, and that was a 1 versus 10 matchup. Homewood was a top 10 team last week. Hartselle was able to get by them, and I think it's more of the same this week for Hartselle. I mean, I think Hartselle, let's be honest. If we have them ranked number 1, we think they're a legitimate contender to win the state championship. They had a quality opponent last week to beat, and they've got another quality opponent this week to beat. I mean, it's going to be difficult to go to Pell City. Let me go ahead and say it. I'm going to pick Hartselle. That's my pick. But this is one to keep eye on. This is one that Pell City can absolutely win. They're going to toss Brayley Smith out there. I guess game 1 doesn't matter. It might be game 2, and he can beat anybody. He can beat anybody in the state. There's no question about it. A couple weeks ago through a perfect game, but it's been not just that one outing. He's been good across the board all year long. He can beat anybody. And then who's the other arm they have? The second arm at Pell City? I'll look it up in a minute. That's fine. But yeah, my point is this is a matchup that 100% Pell City can win.
Brady Laminack.
Laminack, that was the name. Yes, Laminack. Yeah, that's the other arm. Listen, I'm going to go Hartselle. It's hard to go against that offense. Again, that's 1 through 9, no easy outs. But Hartselle better be ready. Pell City will give them all they want. Give me the Tigers barely.
I'm taking the Tigers as well, led by Cade Miles, Josie Williamson, Peyton Steele, Lawson Williams, Cam Pallahatch, Cole Miles, Asher Doppel. That lineup is for real. And Jace Meadows and Nick Chumley and a bunch of others have found a way to piece it together on the mound. Pell City, you mentioned Brayley Smith. You also got to talk. You mentioned Brady Laminack as well. Also got to talk about guys like Zachary Dawson, Peyton Moss, Carter Perry, William Perry, Baylor Fields. Really a pretty deep lineup as well.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's the same star power that Hartselle has, but it's a really talented as well. No easy outs 1 through 9. But I agree, like you, I'm going to go with Hartselle as well. I just they're one of my picks to make it to the Final Four, and I like them to beat Pell City here in another tightly contested series for the Tigers.
And our last matchup in 6A is another good one. And, I mentioned I might be at Buckhorn in Oxford. I'm deciding. I may go to Gardendale, Athens. We may have somebody else there. This is an intriguing matchup as well. You've got the Athens Golden Eagles. They are at home after winning Area 15 this year. They currently sit at 23-11. This series will get started on Friday at 4:30. Athens sits right outside of our top 10. They will be hosting the 6th-ranked Rockets of Gardendale. Gardendale won Area 11, and they come in at 25-8. I believe that this is 2 evenly matched clubs. I believe you've got the offense of Gardendale versus the pitching of Athens. I think that this is an intriguing strength versus strength. These two teams got here. Athens defeated Pinson Valley 11-1 and 9-1. Something that, we felt they would do, and they did. Gardendale, and I mentioned this last week, don't get caught up on Hazel Green's record because it wasn't that good, but they could pitch it. Gardendale won 2 games against Hazel Green. They won 4-0 and 5-2. Again, the Rockets are the 6th-ranked team in 6A. Man, this is a good one. I think this is this is another 50-50 game or 50-50 series. I really believe that. I don't think we're letting the cat out of the bag. Gardendale, Ty McGraw is not playing for them. We have sort of known that and didn't want to put it out there, but I believe it's out there. Everybody knows. That's a big loss for Gardendale. You've got some other pieces. Obviously, Logan Fitzgerald on the mound in game 1. He's a low to mid 8, may touch some mid 80s from the left side, but can really pitch. Caden Combs threw very well last week in game 2 against Hazel Green. Can obviously, hit for power to all fields. Athens got Grayson Hayes, Riley Miller. There's another one.
Jack Elliott, Caden Dumas, Connor Stiles.
There's another arm I'm leaving off other than Hayes and Miller.
Uptain, you've got Walker Fleming,
Yeah. Well, anyway, I didn't mean to put you on the spot there.
Hudson Marks.
Hudson Marks. That's the name. Yes. Hudson Marks is the other one. Man, they've got some pitching depth. And I think it's strength versus strength. This may surprise some people. I'm going Golden Eagles.
I wanted to as well.
Athens. In terms of ranking, this is an upset. I'm going to go Athens Golden Eagles. Would I be surprised if Gardendale sweeps? No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't be surprised if either one of these teams sweep, but I like the pitching depth at Athens.
I'm going to go Gardendale. 50-50, I think. We talked about it. Caden Dumas, Connor Stiles, Riley Miller, Hudson Marks, Grayson Hayes, Jack Elliott, a host of other guys. And then you look at Gardendale, Logan Fitzgerald, Caden Combs, Cooper Jarvis, a bunch of other pulling it up. Sorry, Carson Burdette, Bo Bachtel, Adam Yazell, a 2025 Easton Klein catcher going to Montevallo.
Guess who just texted me? Coach Keedy. But it wasn't about this. It's about something else. I was afraid his text me to give me a hard time. So
text him, tell him I picked him.
Okay. No, he didn't ask. It's about something else. He didn't ask.
I'll go with the Rockets. I think I don't know how well they swung it last week against Hazel Green. Hazel Green's got some really good arms. I think they find a way to generate enough offense. You know what you're going to get when you send Logan Fitzgerald out on the mound, a really talented left-handed pitcher. Sounds like Caden Combs is really figuring out on the mound as well. We know how well he can swing it. I'm going to go with the Rockets. I'll go with Gardendale.
That's probably the way it should be for that matchup because it's truly 50-50. So moving to our last classification, obviously this is 7A. These teams have not played yet. Only 16 qualify for the playoffs. We've got some really intriguing matchups. And I told you there were 3 matchups that I haven't selected yet. I've told you one of them. It was the Brooks-Westminster. There's 2 matchups in 7A that I'm still deciding on. We're going to get you through this, and we're going to be done with this. We're not going to reach our 4 hours and 35 minutes from last week, but we may reach 3 hours and 25 minutes. We'll see. But we want to give those 7A teams their due diligence as well. Let's look at the first matchup. You've got let me find this real quick. Our first matchup, you've got the Prattville Lions. They finished runner-up in Area 3. They come in with a record of 18-20. They will be on the road at the number 1 ranked Central Phoenix City Red Devils. They come in with a record of an impressive record of 33-3. They are the winners of a very tough Area 4 that you've seen a lot of baseball games there this week. Man, let me tell you something. We've talked about this all year long. Central, it's in their DNA to win. And we've talked about that. And, obviously we have them. I think we've got them ranked like 6th in the country or 8th in the country, somewhere there. Man, I'm going to go Central here. I think Coach Myers at Prattville has done a good job this year. In his first year back, I believe it's his alma mater, getting them in the playoffs. They finished runner-up to Enterprise. And I'm going to say this. One more thing. And this is no disrespect to some of the smaller classes, but when you have smaller classes, when we briefly talked about this earlier in this podcast, you have a chance for some lopsided matchups. And we've talked about some of them. We've had 17-0 and 17-0 scores. In 7A, there is not a lopsided matchup. There's not someone that you can just say, oh, they're going to win. It's over. They're going to win 16-0 and 14-0. That's not the case in 7A because these teams are, it's obviously it's based on student population, and these larger schools have more to choose from. So if we pick someone that, we think they're going to get swept or whatever, it's not something that we think they're going to get destroyed, because if you make 16, the final 16 in 7A, you've done something. I've got to go with Central Phoenix City. I mean, they've been number 1, 2, or 3 all year. They win. They won 33 of 36 games. Give me the Red Devils to move on to the Elite 8.
Yeah, I'm going with Central Phoenix City as well. Hard-nosed team. They know how to win, like you said, well coached by
Coach Kehoe and Coach Butler, they continue to do a great job. They've made the state finals the last 2 years and won it in 2022. Their record speaks for itself, the type of success they've had so far this spring. They played some really good teams. They're battle tested, and they know how to win in the playoffs. I'm going with the Red Devils as well. But I saw Prattville earlier this season. They're going to be good in a couple years, and they're good now. But in the next couple years, they're going to continue to get better. They're pretty young. Dorset Jackson, Mason Piper. They've got a bunch of other juniors and sophomores and freshmen in that program. The Lions should be continue to get better over the next few years.
And let me go ahead and say, so I don't have to say it every time here, all of these matchups are starting on Friday at either 4, 4:30, or 5. So all of these series begins on Friday. Our next matchup, you've got the Area 1 winners, the Baker Hornets. They come in with a record of 27, and it's either 4 or 5. I'm not sure.
I think it's 5. They got beat by Fairhope yesterday.
That's right. Okay, that's where it is. Yep. They're at 27-5. They finished the season ranked number 6. And if you didn't see it, our final 7A rankings came out yesterday. They finished ranked number 6. They won Area 1 over Mary G. Montgomery, 2 teams that we thought were pretty close to each other. They ended up winning that. Baker will be hosting the Daphne Trojans, the runner-up from Area 2. They finished runner-up to Fairhope. Daphne comes in with a record of 15-22, and they were outside of our top 10, I guess you can say, receiving votes there. And again, we don't like to get on here and, maybe share something that's not public knowledge or share something that people don't know, because, we have coaches reach out to us all the time and talk to us and things, and there's some things that we know. I think it's obvious now. Everyone knows that Connor Gatwood has a broken hand or finger in I believe it's his right hand. So that's obviously a huge blow for the Hornets. From a number one, I mean, obviously Gatwood is an Auburn signee, a potential high MLB draft pick, but he also led them in hitting, or was one of their leaders in hitting as well. That is a huge blow for the Hornets of Baker. With that being said, I'm still going to go with Baker. I think they have enough pieces to get by Daphne this week, especially at home. They've been consistent all year, and they did have a 2 or 3 week period earlier in the year where Gatwood had like a hip flexor strain, I believe it was, didn't pitch, didn't hit, and they were able to obviously overcome that. It's not a one-man show. I'm going to go with Baker this week to advance over Daphne.
I will too, but I think it's a little bit closer. The records may look like this is a big discrepancy in talent of teams. I'm still going to go Baker, but I still think it may be a little bit closer than some think. You think of Baker, you think of guys like Ethan Santos, Camden Payne, Bryant Durbin, Bryson Sudduth. Some of those guys have had big years in addition to some others. And then Daphne, led by Dylan Ackerman. You've got I'm forgetting the kid going to Huntington.
Jay something.
Davidson. Jay Davidson. Yeah. Daphne's talented as well. They've got found some pieces on the mound that are really starting to play well. Split the first 2 games against Fairhope, but lost the series tiebreaker in Game 3. So we'll see how this series shapes out. But we're both going to go with Baker here, and what's should be a pretty tightly contested series down in the Mobile area.
You're right. That should be a good series. And speaking of the Mobile area, this one may be even better. This is a matchup of 2 teams that have just rolled along all year. You've got the Fairhope Pirates. They finished. If you notice, they were number 9 yesterday in our last top 10 ranking in 7A. They come in with a record of 26-11 after winning Area 2. They will be hosting Mary G. Montgomery. Mary G. Montgomery comes in with a record of 22-10. They finished runner-up to Baker in Area 1. As mentioned, this series will begin on Friday. We both, we saw Fairhope early in our South Alabama showdown. You saw Mary G. Montgomery. You thought they were really, really solid. Fairhope is very solid as well. I think these are two teams that are pretty closely matched. I'm sure it's going to be a big time atmosphere at Fairhope. Neat little park there. I always enjoy going to Fairhope. Got enough shade, and it's just a neat little park there. I went with Fairhope. I'm going to ride the hot hand, and again, that's nothing to discredit Mary G. Montgomery. I would not be surprised one bit if MGM wins this series. But Fairhope has won a ton of games of late. I'm going to side with them to stay hot. So give me the Pirates to advance.
Yeah, I'm going with Fairhope as well. You looking at their roster, they have a ton of arms, ton of talented arms, led by Jerry McDowell. Trying to find it. It's pulling up. Miles Drew Johnson, Nolan Phillips can throw as well on the mound. Harrison Cook. And then on the offensive side, you have Blake Westry. Nolan Phillips can swing it as well as Zach Jones. Rock Gearhart has had a breakout season. Brian Martin, Gavin Rehorn. So a pretty balanced team offensively and on the mound. Looking at Mary G. Montgomery, you have Justin.
Did you mention Harrison Cook?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Looking at Mary G. Montgomery, you have Justin Friend, Camden West, Brody Tynder. Fuller Musgrove is a talented, uncommitted 2025 two-way player. Slay Turner's thrown a lot of important innings on the mound, as has Cody Strickhausen. So Caden Harrell as well, Everett Coggin. So they're pretty junior and senior upperclassmen led team. But I also am going to go with Fairhope just because of I think the pitching depth that they have was really impressive when we saw them in our South Alabama showdown. I thought Mary G. Montgomery was very solid, like you said, but ultimately I'm going to side with the Pirates here with the home field advantage.
Our last matchup in the South in 7A, you've got Enterprise, the Wildcats. They won Area 3. They come in with a record of 22-10. They finished ranked 10th in our final poll yesterday. Again, they come in with a record of 22-10. This is a top 10 showdown. They will be hosting the Auburn Tigers. The Auburn Tigers come in ranked number 7. They finished the season with a record of 23-9. They finished runner-up to Central Phoenix City in that Area 4 we talked about. And, I think it's a case where I think Auburn, they weren't what we were typically seeing of Auburn earlier in the year. They played a ton of people, and I think they've sort of solidified their roster or their lineup. And I think that they have really begun to churn off some impressive wins. Obviously, taking 2 of 3 from number 1 Central Phoenix City was really impressive. And that's when you really started to think, here comes Auburn. And they've done nothing but show that they've come on. And I know these two teams played earlier in the season, and Enterprise thumped them pretty good. I think Enterprise with Brady Richardson on the mound, man, his numbers are like video game numbers. He's going to be tough to beat. But I'm going to go with Auburn, man. I think Auburn goes on the road and gets this series. Obviously, Coach Semo has announced his retirement. Any weekend could be his final season after I think I saw 32 years there, maybe. Any weekend could be his final one. I think maybe that the Tigers are playing for Coach Semo a little bit. And it's a talented roster. I mean, they're talented. So is Etowah. So is Enterprise. Starts with an E, it's same. So is Enterprise. I mean, I'm not going to a bunch of the guys. That's what you do, but I'm going to go the Auburn Tigers here to go on the road and defeat Enterprise.
Yeah, it seems like the Tigers are playing a little bit something for a little bit bigger than themselves, trying to send out Coach Semo with another playoff run. And he's obviously had a decorated career, won state championships, has done an excellent job there at Auburn High School, and has got the Tigers rolling into the playoffs. You looking at Auburn, you've got Henry Allen, Tanner Waldrop, Michael Daniel, obviously those big three in the middle of that order. You think of other guys like Braden Fox, Seth Payne, Jackson Mills, Angelo Santiago, John Barry Upton, as both of those two players, two underclassmen, have played some important innings. And then on the mound, you've got Peyton Etheridge, who can also hit. Peyton Etheridge has been throwing game 1 for them, or game 2 behind Killian Blackman. And then Harrison Geiger is another name who has really thrown some quality innings as of late. I think he's been upper 80s with his fastball, maybe touching 90. Out of the bullpen, they have Will Watley and a bunch of other guys. So they have the pieces certainly to make a run, and I'm going to pick them. But looking at Enterprise, you mentioned Brady Richardson. They're also led by, Caden Boutwell, Mikey Vanderhayden, Tyler Martin. Yeah, you've got other players as well. So they're certainly talented as well. The Kavanaugh kid, Brady Kavanaugh, looking at their roster, Gavin Mayo. So they have talent as well. I think Auburn there's something about, that, you're playing for something bigger than yourself. You're riding so much momentum into the playoffs. You finally found a way to break. You found a way to break through in your area. I think Auburn is a team that's, don't want to say a team of destiny, but I think Auburn is. They certainly have a chance to make a run to the Final Four, where they've matched up with Central Phoenix City in the Final Four for numerous years over the past decade, and not saying that it's going to happen once again this year, but it's certainly. I mean, the path is there, and we'll see how it all shapes out. They could very well get beat this week by Enterprise, but I'm going to go with we'll both go with Auburn here in this matchup, in our last matchup in the South.
And so jumping to the North, our first matchup. You've got our number 2 ranked team currently sitting at 36-6. They won Area 8 this past weekend. That's the Patriots of Bob Jones. They've been a top 3 team for us just about all year long. They are at home. They will be hosting the Senators of Sparkman, who come in with a record of 27-9. They've been ranked much of the year in 7A. They do finish right outside the top 10. They finished runner-up in Area 7 to the Grissom Tigers. Sparkman was a team that went into the final series of the year having to sweep and needing Huntsville to lose 2 to Grissom, which is exactly how it played out. So Sparkman was able to punch their ticket late. They are obviously, as I mentioned, going on the road to Bob Jones. Man, I'll tell you, I saw Bob Jones again this past weekend. That Bob Jones team is pretty dang good. That they're good. Again, you talk about it now. Their top 6 or 7 hitters. There's not an easy punch out. You get down to 8, 9, and they're still going to battle you. I think Tanner Hermish was hitting in the 9 hole. That's a guy that can leave the yard. I may be wrong. He might have been 7 or 8. I can't remember, but that's a deep and talented team led by a couple of two-way guys that you'll talk about in just a second. But I think their pitching staff has evolved as well. Obviously, I think the word on Bob Jones over the years is, man, that's offensive. They get up on the plate. They just try to hit it out of the yard, and it's worked for them. But now they have really done a good job of creating some depth in that pitching staff, and they're a bona fide contender in 7A. And, hey, Sparkman has had a great year, and this has been a little surprising that Sparkman's won 27 games, and that's meant as a compliment. I mean, there's no disrespect in that whatsoever. And Sparkman's going to compete. I mean, again, like I said, in 7A, there's no easy walkover. But I'm going with Bob Jones. Obviously, they are talented both positionally and on the mound. Give me the Patriots.
Yeah, Sparkman, you've seen Sparkman probably more than I have, but I was pretty impressed with how athletic the Senators were. Led by Easton Henderson, uncommitted 24 shortstop.
Oh, he's out. He's hurt. He's out.
Really?
Yeah. Taquan is playing shortstop. Yeah.
Okay.
If you say his name, okay. Yeah.
You've got Amari Jabbar, Ryan Everly on the mound has thrown some important innings. RJ Freeholtz is a quality back end arm for them. Cole Darby, Ryan Gross on the mound. Brenner Vanderwinkle has thrown some really good innings as of late. Wyatt Shears, their catcher. has seen it well. And then one of the top ranked freshmen, Braxton Williams, gives them a chance to leave the yard at any time and creates instant offense when he steps in the box. And then looking at Bob Jones, it's especially the top half of that lineup. You have Jacob Pearl, Braden Booth, Gresham Baker, Zachary Johnson, Dylan Atkins.
We're on the back end of this podcast, aren't we?
We are, yeah. You mentioned Tanner Hermish has really solidified himself as a Game 2 starter behind Braden Booth in Game 1. Reese Cato can swing it as well. Jack Shaw is another quality third starter for the Patriots. Vincent Howell has taken some big swings as of late for the Patriots. So no real easy outs for the Patriots 1 through 9, and I like the way that their pitching stacks up. I'm going to go with Bob Jones as well.
Our next matchup in the North in 7A, you've got the Thompson Warriors. The Thompson Warriors come in with a record of 26-9. They are the Area 5 winners, and they have also, much like Bob Jones, they have been 1, 2, or 3 all year long. They will be hosting the Jaguars of Spain Park. They are the runner-up in Area 6 to Hewitt-Trussville. They come in with a record of 24-11, and they currently sit – Ty Agwan, that's him. Yep, that was the shortstop from Sparkman. Yep. So going back to what I said here, Spain Park is ranked number 5. They finished runner-up to Hewitt-Trussville. They come in with a record of 24-11, and they've done just a superb job this year. They lost a ton of pieces last year. Obviously, they have a big task in front of them going to Alabaster to play Thompson at Thompson High School. But correct me if I'm wrong, Austin, and not that this means anything, but Spain Park and Thompson, they've played twice this year, and Spain Park has beaten them both times. Now, much as we said for the Mortimer Jordan Gardendale game that we talked about, there is a difference in playing regular season baseball and playing state playoff baseball. There's no doubt about it. But I can assure you that Spain Park is going to go into that series. And number one, what do their kids know right now? We beat them twice.
We can beat them.
That 100%. Thompson may have the most athletic, most talented lineup in the state. And I do think that Thompson has played their best baseball in the last 2 or 3 weeks. It's the Thompson that we expect to see. And much as I said with Bob Jones is a legitimate state title contender. I also believe that Thompson is a legitimate state title contender. You can throw Spain Park in that as well. I mean, this is one of those matchups where we're going to lose a quality team that can go far. Man, I know they've beat Thompson twice, and at the beginning of the year, there's certain things we don't say. I don't think Coach Smith will be mad at me for saying this, but when I was talking to Coach Smith leading up to this season, because they were their host for our kickoff classic, we were just talking about some things, and he told me, he said, the Jags are going to look different this year. And he's right. They are a different looking club from last year because they lost so much from last year. But to be 24-11 in the schedule that they've played and in the area that they play in, man, they have done a fantastic job. And they have some really good freshmen and sophomores at Spain Park. They're not going anywhere. Too much Thompson this week, in my opinion. I think the Warriors get it done. I like them, and I'm not going to be surprised if Spain Park wins too. Not going to be surprised at all, but it's hard to go against Thompson. Give me the Warriors to advance.
Yeah. This is probably Coach Smith's best coaching job that he's done, probably since he's been at Spain Park. Because they're talented, but they don't have the Cole Edwards, the Evan Smallwoods.
Jacob
Tobias. But they've got talent. Aiden Burke, Matthew Weidra, Reese Jones. You've probably seen them a little bit more than I have, so you can. CJ Gross has thrown a lot of important innings on the mound.
James Battersby.
James Battersby. So I mean, it's the Chapman Blevins. What's the
the other
you got Coleman Garrett. Is it Coleman? No, Coleman behind the plate.
Yeah.
Coleman Gray.
Coleman Gray. Yep.
Yeah. So the Jaguars, they come into this probably with a ton of confidence. You look at Thompson, led by Bub Terrell, Perrin Bland, Drake McBride, Ethan Crook, Tucker Arrington, Mikael Holden. The list goes on. It's a super athletic lineup. Just finding ways to pitch it just enough and let the offense just do what it does, because it's probably one of the best offenses in the state of Alabama, if not the best offenses in the state of Alabama. And just that home field advantage at Thompson, they do a great job of packing it out, making it a great environment. I'll go with the Warriors here. I'll see. I would not be surprised if Spain Park won this series. I fully expected to go 3 games, but ultimately I'm going to side with the Warriors of Thompson.
I told you that I had 2 picks that I haven't made yet, and here they are. I just made them. I think these are – I think I've said this for every 7A series, but yeah, you've got 2 matchups left. One of them, you've got Hoover, the Area 5 runner-up. They finished runner-up to Thompson. Hoover comes in with a record of 22-15 after playing a murderer's row type of schedule all year long. They finished the season ranked number 8. They will be on the road at the Area 6 winners, the Huskies of Hewitt-Trussville. Hewitt-Trussville comes in with a record of 26-7. They've been a top 5 team all year. They finished ranked 4th in our poll released yesterday. And we talk about teams that can win the whole thing. Well, we're going to say the same thing we said last time. Here are 2 teams that can win the entire 7A state championship. They're going to face off in the first round. These are 2 well-respected. These are 2 tradition-rich programs that have won state championships, that are always deep into the playoffs. I think there's some similarities between these 2 clubs. I think Hewitt is offensively, they're just grinders. They got a couple guys, not a couple, they got more than a couple, but they got some guys that can leave the yard. They got some guys that can go double in the gap. They've also got guys that just extend at bats and win counts and put the ball in play and move a runner. And then I think Hoover's got guys that can really bang the ball around the yard. They're very athletic. I think they've got a lot of team speed. I think Hoover maybe give Hoover the advantage on the mound, maybe. I don't know, from a stuff standpoint, because you look at Hewitt and, some guys they roll out there may not have what you would just call plus stuff, but they pitch and they miss barrels. And it's not about throwing 94 miles an hour. It's about getting outs. And so I think these 2 teams are, man, I think we're prepped for a big series. This is one that I mean, legitimately, these last 2, I just made my pick on. That's how torn I am between them. I'm going to give a slight edge, including that home field advantage, to Hewitt-Trussville. And I'm not comfortable doing it. It wouldn't surprise me a bit if Hoover goes and wins this series. But by the slightest, I'm going to go with Hewitt-Trussville.
Me too. And just a slight margin, that home field advantage. The Husky, they bring a big crowd, great environment, led by Brett Mosley and Steele Hall offensively. And you got a bunch of other guys, a talented lineup 1 through 9. On the mound, Dylan Lukacs has really been a formidable, really good option for them in game 1, has thrown the ball well. And then behind him, you've got Cooper Huffman, Christian Helmers. You even saw 8th grader last year making his first varsity appearance. Hudson Mitchell is going to be a stud.
Wow.
Colby Durden, some other guys, Drew Allis. Huffman can swing it as well in their order. Cam Simpson. So they definitely have the talent. Both of these teams are evenly matched. They have plenty of talent. Numerous players on each roster going to that are either signed or committed to go play at the Division I level, and more specific, the SEC. Then you look at Hoover, led by Mason Blashy, two-way player. committed to Sanford. You also have Jackson Wood, Will Adams, Andy Howard, Cade Finn, Jonah Winston. I'm trying to on the mound. Will Adams. You got Max Crowder, William Andre, Blashier. Those 4 arms have thrown the majority of the innings as of late for the Bucks. But I agree. I'm going to side with you at Trussell, just that home field advantage. I think this is going to be an incredible series to be at. Wish we could be at it. But we'll be following along here throughout the course of Friday and potentially Saturday.
And our final matchup is an interesting up here in the northern half of the state. All right, you've got the Area 7 winners, the Grissom Tigers. They finished with a record of 22-13 and really turned it on the back half of the season. They sit right outside of our top 10. They will be hosting the runner-ups in Area 8, the James Clemens Jets, a team that has been in and out of our rankings all year long. They are right outside the top 10 this week as well. I believe they finished with a record of 27-11. They lost that area series this past weekend to Bob Jones. Man, this is 2 teams that have played each other twice. They have split. Both of them were really tightly contested games. And I'm sure one that both feels like they could have won both of them. I think these are 2 evenly matched teams. We've said this over and over how much we like Charlie Cassingham at Grissom. I'm telling you, man, he leads them in a 2-way role. Again, I'm trying to stay away from names. I know you're doing a lot of that. These are 2 teams that I've seen a lot of this year, and as I mentioned, this was one that I wasn't sure which way to go. Both of them have had really good years. I'm still not certain. I don't feel good about my pick because I could have very easily gone the other way. But from a depth standpoint, I went with James Clemens, and it's by the slimmest of margins. The Grissom staff has done a tremendous job this year, and that's a team that obviously can continue to move on without a doubt. And we mentioned Cassingham. There are other pieces around that. And Grissom hasn't hosted in a while, and they're going to have that's going to be a good environment there as well. One that James Clemens is going to have to handle if they plan on winning it. But I believe going back to this past weekend series with Bob Jones will help them in preparation for getting ready for this. So I went with I went with James Clemens. I apologize, James Clemens Jets fans. I'm sorry. I went with James Clemens here. And again, it was a toss up for me. I mean, legitimately, I could go with either way, but in the end, I'm a fly with the Jets this week.
Yeah. You've seen both these teams more than I have. So if you want to add more players, but you mentioned Cassingham, you've got Joshua Burrell.
He's really come on the mound for them.
Yeah. And then for James Clemens, led by, Ty Marsh, Carson Lucier, Hayden Markford, David Sharp.
Who?
David Sharp.
Okay.
Francisco Ramirez on the mound, Satchel Wheeler, Mason Bush. You can add more if you've.
I will say this: Luke Davenport has not been healthy, but I saw him this past week against Bob Jones, and his numbers didn't end up probably like he wanted to, but he was back up to 89. I thought he looked a lot better than he had previously. I think that could be a big boost for James Clemens. I do. Looking at some of those James Clemens guys, give me just a second, that have led them. Ben Graves is a guy, I think he's hitting in the 2-hole for them now. Carson Lucier, you mentioned him already, just committed to Calhoun. Congratulations to him. Hard-nosed leadoff hitter. Cody Hodges, trying to think of some guys you have not mentioned. JT Johnson behind the plate, headed to Snead State. Jesse Eisensee has, won that spot at second base, has been playing well. Mentioned Luke Davenport, Mason Bush, Matthew Drinkwater on the mound has helped him as well. You mentioned Satchel Wheeler, Ty Marsh, obviously. Yeah. So that is a talented roster. Make no doubt about it. Then you go to Grissom. Give me just a second, please. And we're about done with this, so hold on with us. But looking at Grissom, you've got Caleb Vallejo, man. I mean, he has really done a good job for them. He's getting some at-bats and helps them on the mound as well. We mentioned Cassingham. Charlie Grigsby is another guy that has really come on for them. Finn Steele, I think he had like a big triple against Huntsville last week. Grayson Strobel is their 9-hole hitter, second baseman, really moves the ball around. Griffin Grigsby. Jackson Davis is starting at third base for them and is a quality, setup piece for them on the mound. Wiley Walker has hit 3 or 4 hole for them. So, again, there's some quality players on both sides of them. So that's going to be an interesting series. Who are you going with?
I'm going James Clemens.
Okay.
James Clemens on the road.
Gotcha. All right. That's going to be an interesting one. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And we brought that up earlier in the show. Gatwood has a broken finger. He'll be fine. Should be back in a couple of weeks. Yeah. We hate to hear that for Connor. He's come to some of our events. We've talked to him a couple of weeks ago. Hate to hear that for him.
He'll be back in a couple of weeks.
What's that?
He'll be back in a couple of weeks.
So then all they got to do is win a couple of weeks. He'll be back, right? So no doubt. So again, man, we are over the 3 hour and 30-minute mark. We're at 3 hours and 35 minutes. We are looking forward to this week. We appreciate our over 3,000 live viewers staying with us. We enjoy this. We wish your team the best of luck this week. And if we picked them, we hope they make us look good. If we picked against them, we hope they prove us wrong. We've enjoyed this. We'll do this again next week, and we'll even be down to half the number of teams that we have now. Austin, anything before we check out of here?
The 7A bracket challenge is live. That will close, I believe, on Friday around lunch. I'll update that deadline, but be sure to submit your picks for Class 7A. Obviously, 1A and 6A are closed, but you can still get in 7A. So now I got to go cut some grass.
I did mine. Can you believe I did mine this morning before we got on? So, Yep, did it this morning. So, hey, thank you all so much. Hopefully we see you at the park. Best of luck to your teams. And again, thanks so much for joining us. Have a good day.